Yes. Yes. Madam Chair, you have a live mic.
Good morning. I'd like to call the April 24th Big Cypress Basin Board meeting to order. Andy Hill and Michelle Lenhart are joining us virtually, and I'd like to confirm that they are both connected and present. Mr. Hill, are you there?
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Lenhart?
Good morning. I'm here as well.
Okay, thank you. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic, which is one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, board members. It's nice to see everyone here this morning, and I'd like to begin by recognizing and wishing all administrative professionals a very happy Administrative Professionals Day. We truly appreciate the important work that you do each and every day. I also hope everyone had an opportunity to celebrate Earth Day, a meaningful reminder of our shared responsibility to care for our planet. And as we observe National Arbor Day today, it's a great time to reflect on the importance of trees and the roles they play in sustaining our environment. Couple of housekeeping items. Board members, please make sure your microphone is on and that you speak into the mic so online attendees can hear you. And if you turn your head while you're speaking, please take the mic with you so that you can make sure your comments are captured. And please try to get as close to the microphone as possible to be recognized. Just use the raise the hand button on your dais. Michelle Lenhart and Andy Hill are joining us by Zoom. If you would like to be recognized, just use the raise the hand feature and Troy will call on you. For those joining remotely, thank you for your continued interest and support. And as a reminder, today's proceedings are accessible via Zoom as well as Collier TV and the district's website. For those here in person, if you would like to comment on an agenda item, please complete a speaker card from the lobby and bring it up front to Troy, who is to my right. If you're joining by Zoom, use the raise the hand feature and Troy will call on you. And if you're participating via phone, *9 raises your hand and *6 mutes and unmutes. With that out of the way, agenda revisions. Lisa Keeler, are there any agenda revisions?
There are none, Madam Chair.
That brings us to agenda item abstentions by board members. I'll go and call on each of you. Vice Chair Smith?
I have none.
Ms. McLeod?
I have none.
Mr. Romano?
I have none.
Mr. Hill? We'll go on to Ms. Leonard.
I have none.
Okay, back to Mr. Hill. Do you have any agenda abstentions?
None. I found the mute button.
All right, thank you, Andy. And I have none. So that moves us to consider approval of the minutes for our February 27th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. Could I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Opposed? None. That passes unanimously. That brings us to the Basin Administrator's Report. Lisa Keeler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have a lot to get through today, but before we start, I'd like to give you an overview of the most recent things with our Corkscrew Watershed Initiative. If you remember, this is a 3-year project. We are entering the final year of it. It is on track. I'm always happy. You're going to hear a lot of things that are on track today. So I want to emphasize we are on track with this project, which is exciting. It is going to be finished this calendar year. But since you heard an update, one of the things that have been happening with the technical working group is they've done a series of field site visits. And one of the things that's come out of that is really ground truthing information about where water is flowing, where it's not flowing. And all of that's going to be very helpful to us as we continue modeling these projects and actually start going to construction. So it's been some very valuable time in the field by the technical working group. So between now and December, there's a lot of things that are still going to happen. So May 7th, Laura is continuing her outreach efforts with CWI, and she's going to be at the Corkscrew Watershed Science Forum, giving an overview of the program and where it is. Our consultant is currently in the process of the final modeling part of the project, and the technical working group will be getting together in June to make some preliminary comments about this last leg of the modeling. Then they will come back again in September for another technical working group to review all of the modeling on that as the project is rounding out. Laura's going to have another public meeting in October, probably at the end of October, for the public to review the draft plan of all of the potential projects that could be coming out of the CWI. And then the consultant wraps all of those comments up, creates a final draft at the end of the calendar year. We have another public meeting scheduled for January of 2027. And then we round it out by a final presentation with you all February of 2027. So a lot is happening every single month to bring this in for a landing. And I want to thank Laura Lehman because she's doing a fantastic job keeping everybody on task and keeping the project on schedule. So thank you, Laura.
Lisa, I have a question before
Yeah.
you move on. February 2027, when the board is briefed on the eligible projects or the proposed projects, that would be our time for discussion about which ones we want to move forward and looking at funding for those. Is that correct? Okay,
Correct.
great. I'll be looking forward to that. And Laura's here today. Thank you for being here, Laura.
So with everything that is still yet to come, one of the things that the board had asked us to do through this 3-year study was if there were some low-hanging fruit, easy implementation projects to start, you'd asked us to get started on those. And so I'm happy to report we have 2 that are starting. In June, we will be installing 12 new monitoring wells, which is going to really help us as we finish out these projects, looking to build them in the future. More data, more information makes better projects, right? So we're really excited about the monitoring wells going in June. Then there is another one, but Rory Feeney's going to talk about it. So I'm not going to steal his thunder. You have to wait for Rory to talk about, but he has another early implementation project that's going to be happening this summer, I think.
And that's related to land management?
Yes.
Okay.
So before I turn it back over to you, Madam Chair, I would like to take a moment just to thank our first responders and our partners at forestry for all of the work that they've been doing. We've had several wildfires here in the community over the last few weeks, and they have all done an amazing job protecting homes, properties, and lives. So we just wanted to recognize them and express gratitude. With that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions for Lisa from the board? I don't see any additional questions. Lisa, thank you so much for your report. Next, we're ready to hear from the public. There are 2 opportunities during this meeting to hear from the public and to address anything that's not on the agenda. We'll start with anyone who is here in person, followed by those joining us remotely. Troy, is there any public comment?
I have no public comment registered here in the room for this item, and I see no hands raised on Zoom at this time.
Okay, that brings us to our first board comment. Anything that the board would like to share? We'll start with you, Ms. McLeod.
I have nothing, thank you.
Vice Chair Smith.
I have a few things. First, I would like to thank staff for following up on the septic system questions that we had last meeting on the number of septic done and in the future. Thank you very much. And I have a few notes here for Madam Chair. On behalf of the Big Cypress Board, I would like to extend our sincere congratulations to Chair Roman on her confirmation by the Senate. This achievement reflects her dedication, leadership, and unwavering commitment to our mission. We look forward to continuing to work together under her guidance and are confident that her vision will help drive our organization's ongoing success. To celebrate, of course, we have cupcakes following. On a personal note, I'd like to say it's been a joy to work with you, but also I love your information-packed posts on social media. I don't know, I think it's usually Facebook, et cetera. It's been fantastic. So thank you very much and congratulations.
Well, thank you so much. What a pleasant surprise. And I noticed that we put the cupcakes in the back so that the staff doesn't have to wait, that they can eat cupcakes all throughout the meeting. So that was a plus. Thank you so much.
Very welcome.
Really appreciate it. Mr. Romano.
Nothing for me.
Okay, we'll go to Mr. Hill. Do you have anything for board comment?
Not yet. Thank you.
Okay, and Ms. Leonard.
No, I don't have anything addition except that I also offer my congratulations to you, and we're very happy to have you leading us again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, that brings us to the first presentation, which is by the Conservancy of Southwest Florida on their Python program overview. And we're happy to have here Ian Bartzek.
Great. Good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity to brief you on what is definitely one of the most important wildlife issues of our time, affecting the state and our county specifically. For the last 13 years, the Conservancy of Southwest Florida has been active trying to understand this new invasive predator, the Burmese python. So I'm going to try to condense in 15 minutes, 13 years of research and removal efforts. The Conservancy has been active for over 60 years protecting land, water, and wildlife in our bioregion. So the Burmese python is a constrictor snake. They're non-venomous. This is one of the largest species of snake on the planet. They're from Southeast Asia, brought here from the pet trade since the 70s. Over hundreds of thousands of them were imported into the US. A lot of times people like to blame Hurricane Andrew on the inception of the project, but that's not the complete story. They were very well established throughout the Everglades before Hurricane Andrew knocked down a breeding facility. It also might be that we had a separate introduction here that occurred in Collier County, but more evidence in that direction in the future. Likely we have more Burmese pythons here in South Florida than they do remaining in Southeast Asia. They're a species that's vulnerable. That is something to keep in mind for conservation efforts in the future. But from that size held in the hand there, it's already a skinny 2 foot of snake, larger than most of our native snakes. And the superpower of this animal is they can put on incredible size rapidly. We have tracked many animals that you'll see and hear about in a minute, but a hatchling got to 7 feet in a year. So they are very impressive creatures. You're looking at the largest Burmese python captured to date by mass. This is a female captured in the Picayune Strand years back. That is clocking it at 215 pounds, just shy of 18 feet. Impressive creature, big game hunters. They are eating deer at this size. You'll see some images of, so heads up. And I brought a visual aid with me. Are we ready to take a look? No? Miss Smith? Okay. Let me just state
We're
that,
ready.
stay calm. It's more dangerous to drive around Collier County during season than it is to deal with these snakes, but they are impressive. So for reference, one on the screen, 215 pounds. This one is 185 pounds.
Can you go ahead and say that on the
So
microphone, please?
the one here joining us in the room is 185 pounds, 16 feet. The one on the screen, 18 pounds, 215. 18 feet, 215 pounds. So you're looking at the 4th or 5th largest we've caught in the county here. So just to show this, to take it off of the screen and show you the true scale of the problem, and the take home message is, what do we think they're eating to get to be this size? And I'll show you here in a moment. But first, some of the superlatives from our research and removal program. Active since 2013, we have radio tracked over 120, 130 adults now, and upwards of 100 hatchlings. So we can sort of speak to a lot of these background pieces of information that are valuable, like survival rates and things like that. But as I type this up, it's not a typo. We have removed over 53,000 pounds of python from a relatively small area here in Collier. That's over 26 tons of snake in 13 years, primarily for people and some of our volunteer friends. And you really just can't make this up, what we're dealing with. It feels like a combination of a science fiction novel and a Carl Hyacin book at the same time. It's ridiculous. And but we need to keep our focus on this issue that's affecting us. The base map that's up there is the core conservation areas, state lands in our region, and we're active in those conservation areas. But what makes the program very successful is we have MOUs and we are on private lands as well. Because you can imagine these animals don't respect these private boundaries, and we go where they go, as you hear about our tracking program. Also in the background, we advance the science on this issue. So we've published over 24 collaborative papers, and that is usually what we do in our summer period. We just finished a breeding season of removal, and we try to advance the science on this wherever we can. Okay, here we go. Get ready. This is what we see on ground level here. This is December, a few years ago, 10:30 in the morning. This occurred 15 miles from this building. That's an adult Burmese python. It's 110 pounds. It's halfway through consuming an adult white-tailed deer. And this is just catching this one in the act. To get to be this size, they've been doing this their entire life. We have seen a Burmese python that was 10 pounds that had a 6-pound fawn inside. This almost looks like it came from the Serengeti. And as mentioned, this is just right here in our county, 10, 15 miles from this building. You really can't make this up. And to show you that animal was already swallowing it, that took about 30 minutes. We're almost done on the slide. Stay cool. And we as good scientists, we watched this. If the animal was alive, we would intervene, but it was already gone. And then we got measurements. The gape, as wide as that mouth that python can extend its jaws to, is 31 and a half inches of a waist size. We got the measurements on that, published a paper on it. So just an impressive creature. And keep in mind, they're here from no fault of their own. I know that doesn't really sync well with this slide, but they're impressive animals. They just do what they do well. And you're getting to see what we see real time on the ground. This is a hypothetical prey pyramid of what it could take to, say, make a snake of the size that's on the floor here with us. A food web, if you will. When they're small, they're working their way through the hatchlings and then very quickly getting in the wading birds. The thing to keep in mind is this is a generalist predator. They're not specialized on one specific animal type. They don't just go after deer or hogs like a Florida panther. If it's feathery or furry, they're going to eat it. In fact, it's easier to make a list of what they're not eating than it is to what they have consumed already in the state. And you'll see that on the next slide, or the one after. This is just to give you a visual. If you took that prey pyramid that represented the food that it took to make one animal, and there are thousands of this size class through the Greater Everglades, you're getting a sense of that biomass conversion real time, what's occurring throughout the Greater Everglades. You just really can't make this up. It's incredible what this animal is doing out there real time. So we're upwards of 86 species of wildlife that have been identified from the stomachs of Burmese pythons, primarily through our research collaborators at the University of Florida who've taken the contents from these animals throughout the invaded range. Over 46, 48 species of bird, over 25 plus species of mammals, and a few reptiles as well. And the list just keeps growing daily. It's incredible just to see what this animal consumes. Often this is what we see at our lab at the Conservancy. It feels like CSI crime scene. The photo there to the left of the screen, those are white-tailed deer hooves remaining. And you can even see the acorns in the upper right there that would have been in the stomach of that animal. Often we see these claw cores to the right. Those are feline. At first we thought maybe that's a panther, but they turned out to be an adult bobcat. But I would bet that somewhere in the Everglades, a panther has already been consumed by a Burmese python. It's a matter of time before we see that across our lab table. Just to show you what this animal's capable of, I think the bobcat, when we did that necropsy at our lab, it had a yellow crowned night heron, and then right behind it, the bobcat. So they really don't discriminate. So to jump into our tracking program, try to speed this up a little, we put radio transmitters in the Burmese pythons. We set them loose, primarily adult males we refer to as our scout snakes, but early in the program, we tracked many females to understand them better. We have one remaining in the program, and it's very valuable because she's showing us how often she lays eggs, and we're grabbing that information. But it's a one-sided game of hide and seek. We let them go, we keep finding them, and then we stay on their tail in the breeding season, and they get us closer to the females, and that's how we've been very successful here, targeting these high-value target reproductive animals in the population. This gives you a look, about 1,000-foot view here in Collier. Those are the track lines and locations of one specific animal. This is Python 13, Kirkland. He's named after the historic family that lived in the area in the 1800s, not after my friend Mike Kirkland. Just want to give him a quick shout out from the district and his program. But this is the home range area. Next slide will show that, of this Burmese python. And how would you find these animals in this haystack? They are off grid, away from roads and levees. We use that male to get us closer to the females. And over 5 years, this specific animal, the stars are the females, the plus signs are the males. He specifically found us over 15, 16 pythons. The females alone had over 1,000 eggs in them. And this is how you push back in this sector of the county with this tool. And let me just say, while we're talking about this, next slide, please, that this won't win the war in the Burmese python, but it will win some key battles on the edge of town. And this is what it looks like at the end of the rainbow, if you will, for us during the breeding season, where we attract one of our scout males. He's hiding off in a burrow in the saw palmetto. We never even saw him that day, but he got us very close to this breeding aggregation. So that's the larger female in front. I forgot to mention the females are typically much larger, although we have caught one that is a record size male as well. But those are the two smaller males there that will then be deployed into the following breeding season. And those males years back led us to many different large females right on the edge of town. And that is what's important to keep in mind here as we do take a look at the map later, that this is not deep in the Everglades. This is right up here on the edge of the urban wildlands boundary. But it's not to alarm us. We can live with alligators. We can live with Burmese pythons. We just need to, we fear what we don't understand. So a little bit of science goes a long way to understand these animals. Next slide, please. This is showing a capture, educating our intern on the program this year. This large female was a little upset here, so she's throwing herself around. But if I had a video of my first python captured, it'd probably be the most embarrassing thing ever. But this one is a little bit of training goes a long way. I'm showing them how to subdue them. 9 out of 10 of them during the breeding season are pretty calm and collected and subdued, but every once in a while, there's one that's a fire hose and they throw themselves around. But just showing you the scale and the size class of these animals. That's the easy part. The hard part is then taking her out of the woods and back to our lab. Thank you. Okay, and I wanted to take a little bit of a dive into the Picayune Strand State Forest, which we all know and love. There's a lot of effort from the district here. And with the ribbon cutting recently, it just seems very timely to take a closer look because our active scout program eventually led us into the forest. I feel like I came full circle because I was involved on the biomonitoring projects for the district in the early years, the pre-restoration monitoring and the restoration footprint. But this, as one of the first SERP projects ever, it was so early, it didn't really seem to have the invasive animal component budget to look into these animals. There's an active plant budget, but it wasn't on the radar screen that there was a apex predator running wild through this restoration area. So we followed the science and it led us into this area. Next slide will show you a aerial view. You're probably familiar
I
already,
love
but
these.
if you're not, just how expansive
That's
the
just
forest
my
is.
favorite.
That's at the final canal filling of the Miller Canal. Very impressive what you can do with heavy equipment out there. And just to show you the haystack that we're hunting for these animals, that's an aerial telemetry flight where how we keep up on these animals from the air. It's all VHF transmitters. We don't have GPS collars yet for these animals. It would probably take a lot of the fun out of the game. But that grid in Picayune is very useful for our tracking because the range on the ground, I'll spare you the details, but it's not like it's pure wilderness like the big Cypress. It's very hard to get to A to B. We can usually find our way around the forest and play the game with these animals, if you will. Next slide, please. Here is a composite image from just this breeding season with my team, Jason Edelkine on the left, my intern, he's a field technician, Niall Marsh, my intern in the center, and Ian Easterling, right-hand man on the project there, has been with me for over a decade, showing you the size class of the animals we're targeting. So when you see some of these, we talk about the removal, we're not talking about small hatchlings in the summer on the roads. We're talking about big reproductive females when we can find them off grid. And all of those are in the 130, 150 pound size class. So an overview of the forest, just sort of silhouetting the removal numbers in those 55,000 acres over 4 years with the help of some of our scouts, 189 pythons have come out. And the number I'm more interested in, 112 females with over 5,000 eggs just in that cycle. We're talking 5 tons of python. This is what management looks like to date. This is how you start to push back. It seems daunting at first, but you can't sit on the sidelines. You have to roll up your sleeves and get after it. And that's what we feel like we have done as an example in this critical conservation land, this corridor. And we are pushing back where we can. I hope to see those numbers start to level out over time, but we are just pulling them out hand over fist as we can find them. And it's so hard. I mean, we've gone off grid, as mentioned, needles in a haystack. They don't just present themselves. You have to stay on their tail and then wait till they break cover. Here's a photo of our lab at the Conservancy, just giving you a snapshot of maybe over 2 or 3 days during a single breeding season of just the size class animal that are coming out. Peak breeding season, we've done this for 13 cycles already, and you're looking at those 150 pound class animals. The dark one in the back left there, that's actually the largest male python ever captured in the state. And that's 140 pounds and 16 feet. We never knew they got that large. So it just keeps surprising us. We see something interesting each year, which keeps it real, that what these animals are showing us. The developing egg follicles of the Burmese python, the female, this is those targets we're after. A couple months ago, this is what they would have looked like inside. And the next slide will show you what's about to happen for all those females that are about to lay eggs. Typically end of April or more into May, they will lay this clutch of eggs. They will sit on it for 2 months of the year. They won't eat or drink, we don't think. And then they will wait till they start to pip out and hatch and leave. And then around 4th of July, give or take a week or few on each side, these animals are off to the races. And here we go. Here is a snapshot of what we're dealing with in our bioregion. That represents over 26 tons of python pulled out from Collier over the last 13 years. Once we started cooking with some gas here, we really started putting some points on the board. That's over 20,000 eggs that did not hatch just from the first generation. Imagine what that kept happening in those successive generations. So one of the reasons I'm here is to show this and to try to get proactive from a countywide level on this issue, because this is just what we know south of the trail, but they're definitely moving through the county and expanding real time. You'll see a map in a moment that just shows the 10,000 foot view, but just take this in for a second because this is what we're up against. And this is a good start, but we need to increase the effort big time for this issue in the county. This is the first capture of this season straight out of the gate around Thanksgiving. This was half mile from Port Royal. 150 pound class snake. Who knows how long she's been out there laying eggs, probably 20, 25 years. A scout finally got to this sector and helped us locate this out of a burrow. Never would have found him any other way. And then 2 months later, that scout found a 25 pound female nearby. That was a good sign, much smaller size class. But we feel like we're pushing back at the graduating class of 2000 and then maybe the graduating class of 2023. Don't know, but we're working that out. And I'll try to speed it up from here, but just to give you an idea, this is heavy lifting assignment. That animal's alive, we're pulling them out. There's a lot of science we get off this animal when we're done. A lot of people ask what we do with them when we're done. Tremendous amount of research. These are impressive creatures. We kind of owe it to them to get a lot of science, but we also put down humanely 7,000 pounds of python came out just this last 3 months from Collier. Next slide, please. And here's that range map from a few years back I was mentioning. You can orient with Lake Okeechobee there in the center, obviously. And currently, the U.S. Geological Survey got positive hits of using environmental DNA samples north of Lake Okeechobee on the way to Orlando. So it's very much a South Florida problem, rapidly becoming a Central Florida problem under our feet. And it just gets stranger. Here are some stone crabbers out of southern Collier County, or maybe even Monroe down there, 15 miles offshore. After Hurricane Irma and after Hurricane Ian, we tend to see a lot of storm surge effects. These animals are not where they want to be, obviously, but just showing you water's a highway. And then just to wrap it up, this is where we're trying to go with this. It's great. We're following the science on the issue. We're pulling them out, tons of snake each season, but this is going to take well beyond a village to get after this issue. And we're actively working with partners, trying to increase this messaging through the community, because when one of these animals breaks cover, you have a very small window to get a responder out there to catch this snake. This is what we don't want to see here. And this is what is occurring here on the edge of town. You don't want to come back from a nice dinner. There's a python that already had its dinner. In that one, there was a duck. And what would you do in this situation? Cool, calm, call the hotline or call some other active numbers we're developing in the future to get after this and get a responder there real time, real quick. And it does work. Just 2 days ago, I got a call. Somebody called the hotline. It was in the Fakahatchee, and they kept their eyes on the animal. We showed up with the other biologists, jumped the fence, and caught a 15-pound, 110-pound snake. So the hotline does work. Next slide, please. Just to show you the rapid response here, there's a python that swam up into the Port Royal area, and we showed up within 15 minutes, caught that one. And then in the more rural parts of the county to the right, that is a python that made itself into a chicken coop, and it has one hen in its mouth, one in its tail, and when we necropsied it, there were 2 additional hens inside already. So this is what we have at the moment. This is a partial measure. We have a 9 to 5 through the FWC, Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission hotline, that if you do see a python, you can call 888 I've got one, lay eyes on it, get a positive ID first. Don't confuse it for a native red rat snake. Call that hotline, stay with it. It typically works, so the responder will show up. But this, as mentioned, this only is Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We're working with partners to get a wider net for the county. And I thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ian. That was an excellent presentation, and we'll see what questions that the board members have for you. Michelle, go ahead.
Yes.
Michelle McLeod.
Ian, thank you so much, you and your team, in doing what you're doing. I have several questions for you. I'm not sure if we know the answer to this, but you said that these pythons come from South Asia. How do they function in their native environment? And are they having the same problems with the pythons in Asia, South Asia, that we are having?
Good questions. We probably know more about pythons here from our research in South Florida than they do in Southeast Asia. But as mentioned, they're vulnerable. They're an apex predator. They're probably getting eaten at small size classes by some of the smaller predators in the area, but they very quickly just get to the top of the food chain. But they've been over harvested for meat, leather, and traditional medicines for decades. They don't have an expansive Everglades system like we do. So we're kind of on our own here in understanding this animal. It's reprogramming itself real time to the greater Everglades. Didn't have a chance to get into it, but they use gopher tortoise burrows, armadillo burrows often. And in their native range, they use porcupine burrows. So they're matching that. And that burrow use, that behavior, when we get those deep cold snaps that might knock them back in their home range, because this is a more tropical, subtropical species, they can wait underground, ride out that cold event, and then come out and be just fine.
So are you saying that the environment in South Asia is one that controls itself?
Potentially, yes, just from, what they've been dealing with the native peoples and the habitat there. So they have just adapted to the Everglades, and we're sort of on our own figuring this out as they, balance themselves out in the system.
Okay. And then what is the advantage of these pythons? Like, how are they capturing a deer? Are they fast? Are they stronger?
Yes, this is an ectothermic reptile, and our native wildlife have not evolved with a large giant snake to adapt to. The white-tailed deer has evolved with a panther predator, so they know that threat, but they're babes in the woods. And this animal is just coiled, ambushing. They may even be more actively searching these animals out than just the wait and snatch and grab. They probably, I think we've seen this in our tracking. They find a good area and they just sort of actively pursue the game in there. So a place like Picayune Strand, every typically every python over 12 feet that we've pulled out of there has white-tailed deer hoof cores inside. So that's that competition for that prey base for our Florida panther. And yeah, impressive.
And then if they're capturing a deer, how are they not capturing humans?
We're not on the menu. I'm sure you could do a deep dive in the internet and find some creepy story somewhere, but the reticulated python takes that claim in their native range. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, that deer hole, but I have walked in on thousands of Burmese pythons observations. They've never wanted to do anything with me. They just want to get away. Like I said, if we can live with alligators, we can deal with Burmese pythons. Florida's wild. This isn't something we need to fear. There's plenty of other things to worry about in the world at large. As mentioned, I get scared clicking my seatbelt in my field truck and driving around town during season. I will jump on a pile of pythons any day.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Is that it, Michelle?
Yes, that is.
Okay, great. Mr. Hill, go ahead.
Good morning, Ian. Question, if big picture, what would you estimate the population of pythons would be, and how has it been changing, say over the last 5 years, 10 years, obviously going up, but like, do you have any way to come up with some quantitative analysis of the population that we're dealing with?
Yes, great question. That's the $10 million question. Scientists are actively working on that real time to get a better population metric. We need an order of magnitude understanding of what we're dealing with here, because I could show all of our removal numbers all day long, but if you don't have sort of a benchmark behind the scenes to compare that to, you don't know if you're gaining in the wildlife management world. It's a big Everglades, over 7,000 square miles in the greater Everglades system. I'm just showing you what's occurred in 200 square miles, which is kind of ridiculous if you think about it, that potential biomass is out there. So other teams are working on this. I want to give a quick mention to the district's removal program that has 50 contractors getting after it, working real time, 24/7 to get after these snakes. There's an FWC subcontracted program as well. And then we have our research collaborators in Big Cypress National Preserve with the USGS and the Park Service. And then we have a team of biologists at the University of Florida in Francis Taylor working on this issue real time.
Okay. Hey, as a follow-up item, resources that you have at your disposal, but we'll just say hypothetically, I won the lottery, and since I got enough boats and other toys, I don't need it. And I say, all right, Ian, here's a blank check. What resources would you want to have at your disposal, be it more teams or greater sophistication in technology? What would you need if I were to give you the task of eliminating the pythons?
Sure. And just a quick on the active funding. This is primarily through private philanthropy, but we do get support for our program from our partners at the Naples Zoo and some current grant funding from the Fish and Wildlife Foundation of Florida. But we, as I mentioned, we need to follow the science on this issue. That doesn't mean we have to chase every loose end, dead end on this topic, but technology needs to be pursued, but it needs to be smart. And then if I was at the poker table, I'd be pushing my chips in for a molecular genetic approach. I think that is the future. We really need to get busy on that. We need to put that investment in to have something that pays out down the road. It's not going to happen overnight, but we can put rovers on Mars. We could figure out the python problem.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hill. Go ahead, Vice Chair Smith.
Okay. Good questions. Let's say we take the home in that you were showing with the python in front of it, for instance, that location.
Did that worry you? Okay.
Let's say that location. First, my first question is, what's the peak breeding season? Like, did you
Great
say?
questions.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, so typically we see around Thanksgiving, end of November, starts to ramp up in December, and peak breeding season is January, February, and then starts to taper quickly in March, and it can extend into early April. So right now we're at that cusp of those females don't want anything to do with those boys anymore. And it's also a good time to locate pythons because before those females lay eggs, they typically break cover quite often to bask before they choose that site. And then when they choose that clutch site, they're almost impossible to find.
So
And we do-
essentially during the real estate season. So
Yes,
people are
and-
here. Okay.
Yes, we want cautious with those maps, et cetera. We don't want to
Yeah.
depress the real estate market overnight, right?
Gone.
Maybe we do.
What would they, like, if I'm walking around or whatever, where do they like hang out? I mean, you mentioned burrows and stuff like that, but are they nocturnal? Is it better to walk in the day?
Typically nocturnal, but that's the thing with this generalist predator. It's really hard to just put them in a box, literally. They will do something that just surprises you, but typically nocturnal. But the breeding season, when it's cold out, they typically bask. We use that to our advantage. Right now, there's a lot of contractors that cruise the roads and levees at night, and they're pretty effective at targeting these animals and picking them up. But there's pulse periods of activity. Like, for example, you're not likely to see a very small one often, and those small ones get very confused for our native snakes. So we're going to need to work on a bit of an education program because all snakes are not evil, and this animal's here from no fault of their own, and we have a lot of really good native snakes. So it can be, identification's important. Let me just put that out there. But also, if you're wondering if you're walking your dog and you see a snake that's as long as your arm and as fat as your arm with a pattern and there's no rattle on it, good chance it's a Burmese python. Stay cool, calm, stay back, call that hotline. Wait, keep eyes if it went into the bushes, tell that responder where it went, because that's always how it works effectively, if you can stay nearby. And and let them show up and remove it from the equation, because when they break cover, that's our only chance to get after them. And we need a ground game here in the county of every time one of these animals does break that cover, that we catch it then, so it doesn't have a chance to go on its egg laying career and lay 500 eggs during its lifetime.
I'm assuming you use AI analysis to help you track or anything like that, or?
Not
No,
really
not
at the moment, not a lot of AI. It's GIS-based systems, and this is VHF, so transmitters, radio, so old school technology works really well. We're always looking for the next best thing. You'll hear things about drones, you'll hear things about traps, but until those really rubber hits the road and they can show you really efficacy on the issue, it's important to just kind of remain objective about that, because this is such a sensational animal. There's such a spin cycle on it. The media loves to run 50 different ways out of the gate. The mantra is cool, calm, follow the science on the issue.
If you need some good PR, I know House District 82, Rep Mello really likes pythons, so feel free to
Perfect.
invite, no, I'm serious.
Thanks for your help.
There you go. Thank you very much. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ian, I had the opportunity to spend a half a day with Ian, and Lisa Keeler joined me down there at the lab at the Conservancy of Southwest Florida. And it was very informative, the work that you're doing. And I'd like to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about the scout snake and the replacing of those transmitters, because I think that's key. That's very unique to your program. And also the resources that the Conservancy has there, the samples of the snakes and that you've been capturing, and how you make those available for collaborators to the science.
Sure. Thank you for that extra time to dive into it. And our CPO, Michelle Arquette Palermo, is here as well. And she and Rob would tell you that this is a 6-figure operation, heavy lift each season, a lot of resources go into this. It's the largest science endeavor at the Conservancy over the years. So a lot of resources, a lot of sweat, a little bit of blood, not many tears that go into this. But the Scout program had humble beginnings, 4 animals near the Marco Airport in 2013. And very quickly as biologists, we realized, boys are finding the girls are finding the boys. Why don't we weaponize this? So we did build that motley crew of characters over the next decade. It's easier said than done because you have to catch a new animal in its home range. You can't move one from A to B. There's a lot of tricks to the trade on this if people are thinking about duplicating this, because it's often imitated, not really well duplicated on our technique here, because you really need some go-getter people that's all you think and breathe about. And in a way, that's kind of what I've done with my team over the decade. So we built that program, had leadership gave us the resources to get after it. And it sort of steamrolled from there. And I'm also proud of the science that comes out of that removal as well, because each season we have additional observations and publish multiple publications as well. And that's really important to keep in mind. Never wanted to get pigeonholed that we were studying these animals to death, but sort of we are in a way. We have humanely euthanized more pythons than most people I know, and we've seen some incredible things. So it's been quite the adventure, but we have 10,000 foot view on this issue, if you will, and we know what we were capable of removing with our effort, and we see this animal rapidly expanding real time. And so localized suppression is the term I would use. We feel like we are pushing back in key areas next to town where we've had active scout snakes for over a decade. They are having more difficulty finding mates, and usually when they do, they're smaller. There's always a big one lurking somewhere, but when we go into the Picayune, we can typically find one animal. One scout could get us 4 or 5 females in a year, so we stay hot on their tail. Here, closer to town, 0 to 1 or 2 maybe. Good sign. So we use those animals as a proxy in a way to tell us what we're dealing with. And we go after these high value targets. It's a bit of kind of a special forces operation, if you will, but we need that ground game running concurrently.
And I believe, Ms. Keeler, Ian made a paper available to the board. Ian, could you tell us what we're going to be receiving if we haven't received it already, and what that paper, why you gave that paper to the
Yes,
board?
thank you for bringing that up. So that is a synthesis document on available known python science to date. It was lead author Jackie Guzzi from the U.S. Geological Survey a few years back, and there's a list of authors on it. But what they did was coalesce to that point in time all available python data to known in our bioregion and beyond. And if I'm pointing you to one paper, you got to really curl up to that one. But it's interesting because it's in chapter format. It doesn't just stray off the trail. It covers a lot of bases, a lot of biology, the tools in the toolbox, of which there are very few to actually get after these animals. And it will raise your Python IQ real quick if you can get through that document.
All right, thank you, Ian. Is there any public comment on this item, Troy?
I do have one registered speaker here in the room, Marissa Figueroa.
Morning.
Good morning. Make sure you're speaking into the microphone, please.
Yes. Okay. My name is Marissa Figueroa, Policy Specialist with Audubon, Florida. So thank you for the opportunity to comment. Ian, thank you for the informative presentation. It was great to see the updates on there. I did just want to make a quick note that Audubon Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary have actually found evidence of pythons nearby, but there are still not any documented presence within the 13,000 acre sanctuary. Our land management and research staff have been and have continued to pursue stringent and proactive monitoring over a wide geography daily for the significant threat to the Western Everglades environment. And we continue to collaborate with our colleagues in this monitoring and interdiction effort.
Thank you very much. Any other public speakers?
I have no other registered speakers here in the room and no hands raised on Zoom.
Great. Well, thank you. And thank you, Ian. Appreciate you being here today. Thank you.
you, Ian.
Excellent presentation.
Very welcome. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to dig into our overview of the proposed tentative fiscal year 2026, 2027 budget project funding. And we broke this out in small bites here, and we're going to start with capital projects with Lucinay Dadrian.
Good morning, Madam Chair and fellow board members. Like you mentioned, I'm here to provide an update on your capital projects. And I'm the first up of multiple presentations that's going to inform your next board meeting's tentative fiscal year 2026, 2027 budget plan. So happy here today to give you the updates as well as what the requested budget amount is for 27. So starting off, we have a project that was in the construction phase, I-75 Canal Weir number 1. This was a demolition project. We went through a modeling exercise to determine that the structure was redundant, and we were able, and it was aging out and needed replacement. And the fact that we found it was redundant allowed us to remove it out of the inventory and reduce our future year O&M costs of having to keep it updated and future year, replacement. So having done that, we had a notice to proceed back in 2025 with a substantial completion. was supposed to be in April 2026. We're ahead of schedule. We completed a month ahead of schedule, and this project, I don't know who has control of the. So I'll take control of the slides if that's okay. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. So as you can see here on the left, we've removed the weir. We did enough to get the clear canal conveyance, but did not remove all of the infrastructure, and that helped reduce cost. And these are two pictures looking south down the canal, next to I-75. So the next structure is I-75 Canal Weir number 2. We are replacing this structure about 3/4 of a mile downstream of the existing location. So here's the existing here to the north of Pine Ridge Road, and the proposed is located to the south. This is a structure that's got a weir as well as gates that provide this flow. This will become basically the coastal structure for this canal, and it is in design at this time. We are looking to go out to bid in June of the coming up, and hoping to meet the governing board deadline of August 2026. It will have a construction duration of almost 2 years to complete this project. Let's see. So this structure here is what will get replaced. Like I mentioned, there's a weir here, and then these float structure gates are to the left and right of the weir. So the next project we have is in design and is actually currently out to bid. This is a new tailwater stilling well. So what does this do? This structure, I-75 weir number 3, is a manually operated structure. So when it's manually operated, we basically set it and forget it, dry season, wet season type information. And this structure does not have that tailwater downstream water elevation that is needed to help inform when do we open the gates, when do we close the gates. And that requires sending out the field station staff to go and operate the structure. So like I mentioned, this is currently advertised to construct, this middle picture here, similar style stainless steel piles with a galvanized steel walkway. So we're hoping to open bids May 7th, coming up with a contract duration of 220 days. You can see here, this is the structure location, and we're proposing this downstream location here, a couple 100 feet away from the structure. So the next project is the Upper Fauke Union replacement project. So this is a multi-phased approach. We are modeling this region to determine what improvements we can make. And that includes, can we remove one of the two structures? And if we can do that, then we will build a new structure that replaces Fauke Union 6 and Fauke Union 7. This is a steel sheet pile weir with a couple of V-notches. It's very old. They need replacement. But if we can replace it with a more modern structure that is remotely operable, and then only build one of them, we'll have better ability to manage the flows through this area. In addition, we have Fauke Union 5 here. It's this lower picture here in the bottom. So this structure has 12 gates. We've done a lot of improvements to the structure. We've done a lot of remote operation upgrades. So you may have seen this project come before you a few times in regards to the structure name Fauke Union number 5. But now what we're looking at is, can we get better flow? So because we have 12 gates, you get a lot of head loss across the structure. So you're not moving as much water as you want to. As you can see, there's a lot of debris caught in these smaller gates. And so the intention is, with this modeling and then moving into design, is to maybe we can go to 6 gates and get that better flow and improved flow across that structure. So timeline is we're looking for in design. We're currently in design. So fiscal year 26, current year to fiscal year 28. And then the out years, fiscal year 29 through 31 to do work on Fauke Union 5. And then the demolition of 6, if the modeling shows that that's the right path. And then the future Fauke Union 7 from 34 to 35. And so we've spaced it out based on what we think, we can spend per year. And that's why the durations are where they're at. So we prioritize the work based on the importance of the structure and then move out on the work as the budget allows. So the next project is the Crew Bird Rookery Boardwalk. You've seen this before, of course, and this is a great location. The trail has 12 miles of offering of, paths, and what we're working on is just a 1,400-foot segment that is located here. And this structure is a wooden structure that it's old. We've been replacing boards. It needs replacement. It rots. We had started we went through a design build process because it's more amenable to that type of construction. And it shortens the time span to get this thing replaced, which is important. We want to get everybody back and recreating on the boardwalk, and we're trying to move as fast as we can. So we came up with this method. So having said that, we started design, we did some wood, we did some fiber reinforced polymer material, and then we decided, well, let's make this last longer, right? We don't want to be back, replacing boards all the time. And if, this new product, it provides a 100-year lifespan. That doesn't mean we'll never have to do repairs. It just means you'll have a longer, lifespan of this material. This boardwalk will be in place. The money you put into it is worth the money, and you're not replacing a structure in 10, 15 years. So we're excited. The design was done this past January, and then we shortly moved into construction. And the contractor is looking at a December, January timeframe to complete that construction. And then this boardwalk will be open. And Rory Feeney will talk about this area in his presentation, and we'll show you that there's other paths and ways to get in here and to be able to recreate. Even though this area is closed, there's still opportunities in this area. So you can see in the bottom 3 pictures, they're removing the decking, the rails, and then they're starting to install the pilings, the fiber reinforced polymer pilings. So it's coming along quickly, and we're very excited about this project. So the next project is it's a canal improvements project born out of the level of service modeling that occurred in past years. So we determined through that level of service, there are some areas that we think need improved, whether it's dredging, we need to move more flow that might be reduced because it silted in, or just because the area needs, more capacity to move that flow through the system. So we are executing a design work order for this project. And so the first one is the I-75 canal between Vanderbilt here, between I-75 Weir 3 and I-75 Weir 2. So we previously completed the survey work, and this work order will allow us to move into design and over the next 2 years and to come up with what we think needs to happen here. And then following fiscal year, construction is currently what we're intending. And then for Fauca Union Canal, we are looking at a segment between Fauca Union 5 and 4 South. So in this segment, we still need to complete survey. So this work order has survey, feasibility of completing this work, and it's approximately 5 miles. So we'll look at prioritizing and determining, is it dredging, is it canal bank stabilization, what do we need to do? So that will be determined once this project moves forward. So we have 2 projects that we have taken over from Collier County. And this is a memorandum of agreement that they've provided grant funding for us to do design as well as construction, and includes 2 coastal structures. The first one is the Gordon River structure. This structure here has 2 20-foot gates, and we're currently in design. And we're looking to the design will inform it, but we're looking to possibly do 4 10-foot gates in this spot. It would be remotely operable. It would have the backup generator, and it would be a more resilient structure in this spot. And it would move into the Basin's inventory to manage. So like I said, currently designed this year and next year. We will be getting the preliminary design this May. and then the out year of construction in fiscal year 28 through 30. So this is the second structure located on the Palm River, another critical coastal water control structure. Same idea. This is actually a weir system across the canal that will, we're assuming it'll be 3 10-foot gates at this time, but again, we're early on in the design and we'll know more as we move forward. Its current phase in design, we're basically in the modeling phase, and then same time frame for construction. So the next one, which we're excited about, is the fact that we've completed the Big Cypress Basin Communications Tower. You were there for the groundbreaking. That was a great event, you know, a great time for the basin. This puts the district, the basin, into the Western Loop and delivers that data back into headquarters so that all the data can be seen. Mr. Sutterfield will be able to inform you of how the improvements and what that does for the basin. We had a lot of issues from past hurricanes where we didn't have the connectivity. We were on cellular modem for a lot of the sites, and then we lost visibility to our structures. So after that storm, we had this big momentum to move forward with converting a lot of our remote operable sites from cellular to RTUs and getting them off the cellular, so we have more redundancy and reliability in our operations. So we had a notice to proceed back in October 2024, and we completed the project 3.5 months early. And we never complete early, so this is another one, and but they're both in the basin, so it's exciting that that we've completed a project on time and early.
Must be Angelica. Must be Angelica that's.
Right. So here's a picture back from November, and they were still under construction. And then a picture in March with a completed project. So again, exciting. The next project, Cork 3 structure replacement. So this project is dependent on the Corkscrew Watershed Initiative that the basin's been part of. And their report will be due in December, their final report. So we're looking forward to seeing that report and its outcome. But the pieces that would be involved that the basin would be building are what's on this slide. And we're waiting to get that finalized information. So it would inform the replacement of Cork 3, possible culverts under Red Maple Swamp, and increasing this berm height about 1.3 miles of this berm. So keeping the flow in Bird Rookery Swamp and protecting the areas to the south. So assuming the report is complete in December, we would start design probably towards the end of fiscal year 27, getting that moving, and looking at construction maybe in fiscal year 31. So we have, for the tentative budget, we have 2 new projects that we're considering, and it's the Golden Gate 5 replacement. So the existing structure is located here, just north of Randall Boulevard. In fiscal year 25, we pre-purchased land knowing that we needed to replace this structure, and we wanted to get ahead of not being able to find land to build a new structure. It's very difficult to build new without, you need to keep the existing in place and working while you build a new structure. So it's easier to do it this way. And it's the assumption is about 500,000 to move forward in design in fiscal year 27. We're starting to tee up the project and hopefully have a work order ready to go in early fiscal year 27 if approved, and then construction starting in fiscal year 31. So this is the proposed tentative budget that we are suggesting. We have the current adopted year to the left here, total of $6,050,000. That included funding for I-75-1 and I-75-2. It includes the funding for the Stilling Well, some additional funding for design, the Bird Rookery Boardwalk costs, as well as the canal improvements dredging. And then here in 26-27 is a multi-year ask for that I-75 that we're currently out to bid for, or we're going to be out to bid for this year. And then the 2 new starts for design. So that ad valorem budget is approximately 5.8 million in the request. And then we have the multi-year design funds here for the Gordon River and Palm River as grant funding from Collier County. So it's an overall total budget of 6.7 million. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, board questions for Lucenay. Go ahead, Vice Chair Smith.
Great presentation. I've
Thank
got
you.
a few questions. So Faka Union 5 going from 12 to 6 gates, is that a removal of 6 or is that a reconstruction of the whole thing?
The intent is to use the existing structure and then just replace gates.
Okay. On the bird rookery walk, boardwalk, is any of that private funding, like from this spot to this spot is whatever?
This is
in-
all out of the Basin
Okay.
budget, capital budget.
And how old is GRI 1?
So that was built in the 70s.
Oh, okay, that
So it's
explains.
pretty old.
I'm like, whenever I looked at it, I'm like, wow, okay. When you buy land, like for GG5, is the public noticed of what the use is going to be? I mean, it's kind of obvious what it is, but
So when we buy land, we go through Collier County to purchase the land for us.
okay. But do they know what's coming in? The use of that land, I mean, is it
When we're working with the property owner,
when you're
I
buying?
believe the county staff, when they're working
Okay.
through that, is letting them know that we're needed for
Okay.
future flood control.
Perfect. So like 5 years, so you buy it and 5 years later, it's like, and then this structure comes in and they're like, what is that? Look, okay, that makes sense. All right. Told you it was just 5 basic questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McLeod?
Yes, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Every once in a while, I see projects come up that are trying to figure out, like parks and piers and things like that. And they're trying to figure out what kind of wood to use for the long lasting effects. And ePay comes up a lot, but it's so expensive. But what did you all decide to use for the crew boardwalk?
So it's a fiber polymer, reinforced polymer.
Is that natural?
No, it's
Okay.
it's a plastic.
Okay.
But it's really durable. We've built other boardwalks across the district, and I got here in 2008. There was a boardwalk built in 2010. It's now offline and needs replacement. So I would like to see that they last longer. The time frame to actually the time frame from the resources, staffing resources, and the financial resources. I'd rather build something that lasts longer, that I don't have to, in my position, replace again in 10, 15 years.
Mhm.
So
So it's cost effective and essentially would be
Yes.
more durable than other maybe natural things.
correct.
Okay. And then you had mentioned that the basin is taking over some of the weirs in the county. Has there been any talk about taking over some of the weirs in the city? Naples specifically.
Yeah. So
The reason why I ask is I get a lot of questions about that. Oh my gosh, who's managing this? And
right. So the memorandum of understanding with Collier County is for us to operate the system for them. So this is county structures, county features that we are operating.
so no talks. Yeah. Okay.
Is that it? Okay. Mr. Hill, go ahead. I'm
Um,
sorry. Did you have a follow-up? Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Hill.
Let's see. Yeah, my question was, we don't usually talk about who the contractors are on the design phase and certainly the GCs that take over the actual construction. But is there contractors that seem to come up more frequently on our projects?
So for example, I-75 #1 was completed by Thomas Marine, and they're a
Okay.
local contractor. For Crew Bird Rookery Boardwalk, that's also Thomas Marine doing that work.
Okay.
And then for the tower, that is Expert. That's their name, Expert, and I don't
Yeah.
remember the construction something. But they are basically built all of our towers to date across
Yeah.
the 16 counties.
Yeah, I remember meeting them. Yeah, they seem to be very focused on that niche business.
Right, and
Okay.
then for designers, design consultants, we have a slew of a slew of consultants that we have contracts with that we pull from. And it depends on, you know, when we pull, how much work they have, that type of thing. So it's a series of different contract consultants doing that work.
Is it the work that we're requiring, is it what you would consider specialized, or can we find contractors and designers, architects, if that's the right term? Is it fairly common work, or is there truly somebody needs to be a specialist in this type of activity?
So we think we're special.
No, yeah, right.
We are a very sophisticated owner of infrastructure, and we have designers that understand the way we do business. We have standard specifications that are guidelines for the consultant to use to move the project forward. But we're very specific about what we need, what we want, and how we operate, how it feeds into our microwave system, how it feeds into our SCADA remote system, and brings that data back into the district to be able to manage. There are a lot of components that we like to have that are similar so that the field station knows you're not purchasing 5 different types of tools for the same type of equipment, but different owners. So we're very specific. We're definitely I don't want to say complicated, but we know what we need, and it's not common.
Okay,
We're a
So-
sophisticated client.
got it. Okay, that's enough for today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Smith?
I think it's a really good question by Mr. Hill, but so competitive bidding probably wouldn't work. I mean, to some extent because of your specialization, or you'd have such a narrow pool, or
Well, you can specify things in your specs and your plans, but we do competitively bid our contracts
Okay.
for construction.
just good clarification. And also, I was going to suggest that Ms. McLeod talk to the city since she lives there, but never mind. Voluntold, sorry.
Okay.
Because I can see why your people ask you that, because I walk and buy it too, and I'm like wondering who in the world is managing some of that. But
Exactly.
okay, I think you'd be a really good liaison.
Oh, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Great questions. Thank you, Lucine, for
Thank
your
you.
presentation. Appreciate it. There might be something that comes up later on when we're through. Is there any public comment on this item, Troy?
We have no one registered for this item.
All right, great. Then we'll move on to the next portion of this, which is the big Cypress Basin microwave tower and SCADA communications. And Mr. Sutterfield, welcome.
Madam Chair and board members, thank you for allowing me to speak today. I'm Tom Sutterfield. I'm the Bureau Chief of Information Technology for the district. I've been coming over here presenting for some time, but it's been about 6 years since I've been over here, so it's great to be back. So I want to expound on the good news of the tower. We're going to talk a lot about the tower today. Having the tower, it's been a long time coming. We started talking about it over 10 years ago. We started looking for sites 7 years ago. And we finally got to the groundbreaking last year, and it flew up in record time. And so we're glad that that's coming online and ahead of schedule. But we also want to talk about the SCADA sites that talk to those towers and the ongoing upgrade. We've gotten quite a few of the upgrades to the technology for those SCADA sites completed, and some of the reconditionings. Before I move off this slide, let me just point to the fact that this is kind of a data site. So SCADA stands for Supervised Control and Data Acquisition. So the supervised control is sometimes called remote control. It's how we are able to turn on pumps, turn off pumps, open gates, close gates. And data sites are just to say, hey, I need to know what the water level is. I need to have data to make decisions on what gates to open. So this is a typical site, but this site is unfortunately offline. The SCADA component, or all the technology, is in this box right here, above a stilling well. And then we have a platform and typically an antenna that gets to one of the towers. But if you take a closer look, the reason this site is offline is what holds up the walkway to the stilling well is completely rusted through. And this pipe over here actually holds the antenna, which is laying across the top of the site. So this site has unfortunately been offline for some time. We have 106 SCADA sites within the basin. And unfortunately, some of these, they're in harsh conditions. We have, when you have electronics sitting in your office, they go stale. When they're sitting out in the elements, we have to replace them but the good news is we've replaced quite a few of them. 70 plus SCADA sites have been replaced over the last few years, but there's still a few more to do. So let's do some history. We started in 2014, 2015, looking at your SCADA environment and recommending upgrades. But it really came, the status of your system really became visible in 2017 with Hurricane Irma. Because we didn't have the microwave backbone in the basin, 100% of your sites were on either cellular or commercial telephone carriers. After Irma came through, about 60% of the cell phone towers were inoperable, leaving only 40% of the system there. And that 40% was completely overwhelmed by emergency response, people trying to get to friends, family, relatives, and see how they were doing. And it really overwhelmed what was left of the cell system. The rest, most of our commercial telecom went through My Florida Network. The local facility that handled My Florida Network lost its roof. So, of course, when you lose a roof, it's not a couple of hours to repair. That site was down for months before we could reroute traffic. So initially, after Hurricane Irma, the only way we were blind to the system without sending people in trucks out to the facilities to see what was going on. All right. So after that, we started reducing our reliance on cellular. We installed additional radio antennas, additional connectivity, upgraded to new digital radios with enhanced security and reliability. But our long-term strategy was always to get you on the backbone so that we had connectivity all the way back to headquarters and had the resilience of our backbone. So let's talk about the backbone real quick. So the district operates over 60 towers, but about 35 of them are now part of the backbone. They include this northern spur, the north loop that goes around Lake Okeechobee, the south loop that goes all the way down to Homestead and back, and most recently, the western spur, which is obviously what we needed to get into the basin. So this is C43 up here, the brand new shiny BCB tower. And we already had the FACA tower, and we had an agreement with Collier County to use the County Barn Road Tower. Collier County has been a great partner with us. So we have antennas on that tower as well. So when we bring this missing link in, the BCB tower in the next number of weeks at this point, we not only bring a BCB tower onto the backbone, but we bring the FACA tower onto the backbone, and we bring Collier County, County Barn Road Tower in. So here's the brand new shiny tower, ready to go. And a few more photos here. This is when they were actually craning in the shelter where we keep all of our equipment in. Sometimes I find that my job, or I think my job, is difficult, but I will point out that little spot there and that little spot there are two climbers who are working on the tower. So if you back up one slide, those are the same climbers up there at almost 300 feet in the air. So I'll take my desk job. I'm good with that. Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for my job. All right, so let's talk about the SCADA sites and what this BCB tower gives us. So right now, 0 of your SCADA sites are on the backbone. They're all on either cellular or commercial carriers. As soon as this BCB tower comes online, because it brings in FACA and County Barn Road, immediately 76 of your sites will be on the backbone. That's a huge improvement. Within weeks following that, we're going to move some sites from the Immokalee Tower to the Big Cypress Basin, and another 11 sites will now be on the backbone. That is 87 sites of your 106 sites. Over 80% of your sites will be on the backbone within the coming weeks. So that is huge, huge news. Now, there are a few sites that won't be on the backbone. They are the ones that are far, far to the east over here or far to the south here that will have to remain on either Miles City Tower or on cellular. But this is a huge improvement, again, from 0% to over 80% of your sites being on the backbone is going to be huge. Okay. So back to, if you remember the first slide in those photos of the deteriorating SCADA sites, again, we have replaced over 70 of those SCADA sites, but we still have 39 of those electronic SCADA sites to do an upgrade. And this is our plan over FY26, the rest of FY26 through FY29, to do those remaining 39 SCADA sites and upgrades, and the reconditioning efforts. For safety reasons, for a lot of reasons, when you see those walkways or the infrastructure that's holding up the stilling well rusting out, some of those sites have to be reconditioned. Reconditioning is something we've been trying to do. It's somewhere in between the field station going out to replace a board here or there, or to make minor repairs to a handrail, and a complete removal and rebuilding. So the reconditioning is, there's enough here we can save, but we still have to rebuild the walkway, or we have to replace the wellhead or something. So this is our plan, again, over the next 3 years to do reconditioning efforts for 17 of the remaining sites that need to have reconditioning done. And with that, I'll take whatever questions you have.
Thank you very much for the excellent presentation, Tom. Appreciate that. Board members' questions? Vice Chair Smith?
Great presentation. So you mentioned security. You're talking like cybersecurity, not physical security, obviously, or maybe not, or both.
A little bit of both, yes, but yes. Anytime you're dealing with anything with electronics, you have to be concerned about security. When we went to the newer style digital radios, all 100% of the traffic became encrypted. We had additional security layers. We had several methods to improve security and make sure that our data that's coming back to us, we know is clean, and there's no intrusion into the data stream.
So you feel confident with what yeah, okay.
We do.
It's a big issue nowadays. It's
It
kind of like,
is.
and all of a sudden I just
It's
had a visual in my head of somebody coming in and all the, wheels open up and whatever,
there's not a single day that goes by in IT that we don't talk about security in some way and how to make it better and make sure, so we're always looking.
Okay. And then for your budget, you mapped it out, 500, or I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but over 3 years, if you could get the 1.537 in one swoop, would that be a better thing? Or are you just trying to kind of like cash flow it?
It will be in some areas, but we have we have some resource constraints. Some of this will be outsourced to vendors. And some of it, it's a timing issue on when we can get to the sites. Some of these sites are very, very remote. So it's not a just drive down the street and rebuild it. It's the contractor you get has to have an airboat or has to have special equipment to do something in a very remote area.
So strategically, it's planned out,
Right.
not just about money. Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McLeod.
Thanks, Tom. I must have missed it. Okay, so what is our tower communicating with? So because there's cell towers and we're getting away from cellular and we're going with fill in the blank.
So we're using microwave communication.
Microwave?
But
Okay.
the difference between a cell phone tower and a microwave tower, the way we build them, is pretty vast. There are for cell phones, there have to be lots of cells in an area. So they put them up, I won't say cheaply, but inexpensively. They put lots of towers up, but they build them to a fairly low standard, because if they lose one or two towers or one or two cells in an area, they can still operate just with reduced capacity. Ours, obviously, one of the things we have to respond to is things like Hurricane Irma. So we want to make sure that
Yeah, just to add, so our towers are built to a 235-mile-an-hour wind speed. So I just
Okay.
wanted to provide that input because we can't afford for a tower to go down and lose communications during a hurricane.
And so how do the microwave waves work?
Okay, so
I'm
microwave
sorry.
microwave is just like any other wave, like a radio wave. It's not just for heating up hot pockets. So it is, but microwave is actually used for communicating over long distances. So it's just a spectrum of the wave that we use to communicate between towers. So carriers, including cell phone carriers, use it from point to point. But most cell phone companies use terrestrial lines, which can be damaged when floodwater rises and things like that. So again, as Lucene said, we build this to a very, very high standard because right after the storm, that's when we need to move water.
Mhm.
So we have to design to a very high standard so that we're ready and can move the water right after the event.
Okay, great. Thank you. Very informative.
Ms. Lenhard, go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much for your presentation. I hate to be the one to say, but what about, but I will. So there, you mentioned, I believe, around 20% of the SCADA sites won't be brought in on the backbone. So what, are there any long-range plans to bring that all on board? And if so, what can you tell us about them?
So we do. I mean, some of them are very, very remote. Long-term plans for the stuff to the east.
Why don't you show your map? Put that map back up so that.
So long-term plans, some of these to the east may be pointed back to the east to get onto the backbone over here where you see a little edge of the south loop. Those things that are very far to the south are kind of out of the range of the tower, and they're really out of the range of any commercial lines because there's just very little communication down there. So we are looking at ways to again, working with Collier County, who's been a great partner. How do we get Miles City connected to the county fiber and possibly be able to get that, backhaul that to the County Barn Road or FACA. But The primary, again, I broke up this slide, I broke it up into control sites, remote control sites, and data sites. So all the ones that are outside of, or won't be on the backbone, are data sites. They're important. They give us information, the information we use to do science and make decisions about flood control. But the control sites, the remote control sites, those are the ones we're prioritizing. We want to make sure that we can open gates, open weirs, close weirs, turn on pumps, turn off pumps. That's what we want to be able to do. So the good news is when this tower comes online, 100% of your control sites, 100% of your control sites will not be on the backbone. And that's a huge win.
Did that answer your question? Ms. Lenhard, did that answer your
Yes,
question?
sorry, I had muted myself again. Yes, it does. And I think that clarification again of the remote control sites, prioritizing those was good for us to hear. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there any public comment on this item?
I have one registered speaker, Brad Cornell.
Thank you. I'm Brad Cornell. Madam Chair, appreciate the opportunity to address you. I'm here on behalf of Audubon Western Everglades, and I just wanted to say a couple things. One is we have communicated over the couple of years of planning for the BCB tower northeast of the Lake Trafford, and we want to thank you again and congratulate you on that completion, and in particular, the design elements that are addressing reduction of bird collision and bird deaths. That has to do with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's guidelines from March of 2021. Those are the most recent guidelines that recommend measures to reduce what are about 7 million bird deaths a year from tower collisions and exhaustion from the poor lighting, bad lighting. So the elements to this are put it in a good place that's not near wetlands and lots of birds or migratory paths, but also use lighting. Don't use any lighting if you can avoid it, but FAA generally wants you to have your towers lit if they're above 200 feet. The lighting that is not steady on is absolutely essential. And so, you know, as maximum dark period between flashes is great. And also your utility buildings not being lit all the time, using motion detectors and having sort of having that light directed down is really important for wildlife, for birds, for keeping them all safe. And my last thing I just want to suggest, so thank you for those design elements. I know this tower is above 200 feet, so and the other thing is not to have guy wires. So having your lattice structure or a monopole is absolutely essential. I'm saying this for everybody, you know, who wasn't in on those original conversations, because this is important, because towers are, you know, you have to replace towers, you have to put up more towers as more people move in. And these are important elements to include. So no guy wires, lattice or monopole. And the last thing, the other towers that you're using, including the county's towers that you're co-locating with, please consider looking at the design features, the lighting elements of those, and if you can influence or retrofit those to be better lit for bird safety, we highly recommend that. Thank you.
We appreciate your input, and we definitely took those into consideration on the construction of this, especially the guide wires. The guide wires are a huge factor. They're almost invisible to a bird that's migrating, and so building without guide wires is huge.
Yeah, I'm very, very proud to be a part of this board with this project. I mean, this has been a long time coming, but there's been a lot of collaboration on this to get this right, and appreciate everyone's effort on this project. This is going to be a great celebration when we do the ribbon cutting here coming up. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, next, land management activities and projects with Rory Feeney.
Good afternoon. Again, so my name is Rory Feeney. I'm the Land Resources Bureau Chief for the South Florida Water Management District. I'm pleased to be here this afternoon to discuss the land management activities in the Big Cypress Basin for this fiscal year and the upcoming fiscal year. So let's just jump right into it, right? When we talk about land management, we want to talk about the tools in the toolbox. And what you'll hear today are a few different, 3 out of the 4 different tools that we use in our integrated pest management, or IPM. And that's a science-driven toolbox where we manage invasive plants and animals to their lowest level. That includes prescribed fire, mechanical, herbicide, and biocontrol. So for fire operations on crew, this slide represents the burn units at the Bird Rookery Swamp and Corkscrew Marsh. Now, we've been in drought conditions for this past year. It's been one of the driest dry seasons in decades. So there's been a countywide burn ban since January of this year. So that's really limited what we can do. But in the meantime, we've been putting in fire lines, we've been prepping for the fires, and as soon as that burn ban is lifted, we'll be able to jump on these fire units and get things moving again. For invasive vegetation management, we also use, as I said, a tool. We use herbicide as a tool. And our first priority in the Bird Rookery Swamp will be going after Old World climbing fern and Brazilian pepper. And our second priority will be doing initial treatment on invasive grasses such as torpedo and Kogan grass, and that is depicted in the green. The first priority, as I mentioned before, the Old World climbing fern and Brazilian pepper, is depicted here in the blue. That work will total about $200,000 and encompass several 100,000 acres. Next fiscal year, we'll be increasing our budget to hold it on the ground that we've already done this year and target additional acreage next year in Bird Rookery Swamp. One of the main beneficiaries of vegetation management activities are the native sparrows such as grasshopper sparrow, savanna sparrow, and swamp sparrow. We have identified specific lands on the east side of Bird Rookery Swamp where we'll focus our efforts during the end of this year and into fiscal year 27. The target species will be torpedo grass, Kogan grass, Parag grass, and once we have that area under maintenance control, we'll be following up with the removal of the remnant fences that are out in those fields and planting of native grasses to help rebound that habitat. This project, as was mentioned before, is part of the Corkscrew Watershed Initiative low-hanging fruit projects. We've been removing and shredding Carolina willow for quite some time, for several years now. And Carolina willow is a native species, right? But when the hydrology is altered, Carolina willow can dominate the habitat. It can outcompete other native vegetation. It can become so abundant that it reduces the biodiversity and excludes wildlife as well. So as part of the district's efforts to reduce the use of herbicide, we've elected to use tracked vehicles on this project. And those tracked vehicles will have mulching heads in the front. And we've been doing that for a few years now. This year, we'll be targeting 35 acres. But actually, hot off the press, we found additional funds available through the Green Heart Fund Balance. So we're going to be doubling our efforts to do additional acreage, 70 acres this fiscal year. So that's good news, doubling down our efforts on that. Next fiscal year, we'll be targeting about 50 acres of mechanical willow shredding, and that will total about $200,000. So an exciting part of the Bird Rookery Swamp facility out there is the installation of a new bathroom. For years, we've been using just porta-johns. That just has not been great. It's a very popular area. It gets so popular that people park on the side of the roads. So we're happy to announce that just as of last week, this bathroom was installed at the Bird Rookery Swamp parking area. which will become fully available once the project that Lucinay mentioned, the boardwalk project, is completed later this year into December, possibly January, and that will be available for the public. As well as once the boardwalk project is complete and the vendor has left the premises, we're going to expand the boardwalk, the parking area. There'll be additional space moving a bit to the east, about 60 feet, and that will include ADA parking, split rail fencing, and finishing touches around that bathroom. That project is estimated to be about $125,000 out of next year's proposed tentative budget. During all this activity, mentioned before, we wanted to keep the Bird Rookery Tram open for the public. And while the parking area is closed, the access to that point is closed, you can still access the tram through the Purple Trail from the Flint Penn Strand during these construction operations. And in 2025, we had over 100,000 people visit the Crew lands. That's over a double the number of visitors since 2015. The Crew Trust feeds that interest in the local environment by conducting outreach and educational field trips throughout the year. They've been amazing. There have been an amazing bunch of volunteers that they work with to maintain the 40+ miles of trails. And from October to March of this fiscal year, the volunteers have donated over 3,000 hours of time in outreach, education, and trail maintenance. And these are just a few of the photos of the great work that they do. And as you may know, the district has had a long-standing partnership with Crew Trust that goes back several decades now. On to tree management. Excuse me. This project was completed during fiscal year 26. This is about 1.2 miles of the Golden Gate Main project. The Land Resources Bureau serves as just one of the team members that accomplished this complex project. Working with Basin field staff, contractors were able to move 1.2 miles of hazardous vegetation that, if left to their demise, would completely severely impact flood control operations during and after storm events. Fuel station will provide additional details on this project, but it was a very, very good project to work on, and we can't wait to hear a little bit more about that later. During the fiscal year 27 time period, we'll be surveying the next segment of the Golden Gate Canal from Southwest 27th Avenue to Cypress Canal. This will serve as our benchmark to remove additional hazardous vegetation for the subsequent year. So let's shift our focus further east and talk about the Green Heart of the Everglades. This is a 10,000 acre parcel of property that was acquired 2 years ago by the district. It is just north of Everglades City, west of State Road 29. What should I say? Their neighboring agencies are Big Cypress National Preserve, Fakahatchee Strand, and 10,000 Islands. And we intend to do some prescribed fire operations south of the trail. And that is about 1,500 acres there that we intend to do prescribed fire operations. This part right here represents about a 50-acre parcel that was a part of a wildfire to the west that did come onto district property, but we were able to contain that pretty quickly. We have about $50,000 in funds this year to do exotic vegetation management at Green Heart. This project will mainly treat Brazilian pepper along the berms and cleared hiking trails north of Collier County recycling complex. And I'll show where that place is on the next slide. The species included in that scope of work will be Melaleuca, Australian pine, and Java plum. And that project is slated to start in the coming weeks. We have additional funding and acreage targeted for fiscal year 27 in the total of $175,000 in the proposed tentative budget. This slide shows one of the public access points into the north side of Green Heart. The bottom left is the newly installed gate that will allow for hiking and biking through a 1.3-mile trail that meanders north and eventually turns west into Fakahatchee Strand. Now, we could only do this project with the close coordination and collaboration of Collier County. That we entered into an access agreement allowing the district and members of the public to access past this recycling transfer station right here. It's a parcel that they own, but we're now able to cross their property, allow the public to go into this hiking trail that meanders to the north and, as I said, to the west into Fakahatchee Strand. So big thank you to the county for working on that. This is that new gate that we installed with the pedestrian and bicycle walkthrough right there. And once this parcel is fenced off to protect the resources and assets of the county, we'll be able to open this area up to the public for recreation. And that's going to be in the coming weeks. This fence will be installed beginning next week. And we anticipate being able to open this area up in the following weeks after that. Access to the north is going to be from the old airboat concession stand that you can see here. This is a aerial view of that old airboat concession stand that has since been vacated when we purchased the property. That building is really dilapidated. It's sitting on stilts over the water. There's really no way to salvage that. Plus there's a propane tank here and below ground storage tank that needs to be removed, a seawall that needs to be removed and improved. This right here is the old floating docks that have been since removed. And starting next Wednesday, this area will be closed off and the demolition will begin. And what we envision once this area is cleared out is to have additional parking off of the highway, some fencing to protect the people from backing into the water, and then a cutout to allow people to drag their canoes and kayaks into this already established trail right here. It'll be a very nice place for people to go fishing, to go kayaking once the project is complete. And then into next fiscal year, once all these components are complete in Greenheart, we will work with FWC to designate the property as a public small game hunting area, which will allow for fishing, frogging, small game hunting like waterfowl hunting, as well as python removal. The last slide shows the fiscal year 27 proposed tentative budget. I'll just call out some of the major changes from last year. While the overall budget remains the same, we've moved from a demolition portion here of the Greenheart budget to now moving that money towards other projects like vegetation management and crew. Hazardous tree removal work will turn to a survey for next year. So that money is going down. We'll do additional tree work in fiscal year 28. As well as the bird rockery parking lot expansion in fiscal year 27. We anticipate that funding to be $125,000. But overall, the budget has remained the same from last fiscal year. With that, I'll take any questions.
All right. Questions from the board. Michelle McLeod, go ahead.
Thank you, Rory. So if a controlled fires are prescribed burns, one of the benefits is to prevent catastrophic wildfires. Could we have done something or tried to get ahead of the wildfires that happened in the Picayune Strand? Or have been, I don't know where we're at.
It's a balance. I mean, we try to get out there and do as much as we can with the resources and staff that we have, but to say that our prescribed fire activities will absolutely prevent these wildfires from happening, no, they'll reduce the intensity and the size of the burns. But Mother Nature is always going to get head start on us. It's the lightning capital. Florida is the lightning capital of the country. So there's more lightning strikes in Florida than anywhere else. So we're trying to get ahead of that and do these controlled burns. That's exactly what they are. They're controlled. They're planned out weeks in advance with staff and contingencies on site. So the intensity of the fire when we're doing controlled or prescribed burn is much lower. We're seeing lots of benefits to that. The thatch removal, the rebound of native vegetation, the utilization of the wildlife to those previously burned areas. But certainly the prescribed burning will help, but it's no guarantee that it would stop some of these larger fires.
So then we would then believe that it could have been worse without our prescribed burns.
Certainly, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Vice Chair Smith?
Is the ROI on the prescribed burns pretty high? I would think. I mean, is it mostly labor costs or?
It's one of the most cost-effective tools that we have, more so than our ground contractors that are using herbicide, more so than the biocontrol, more so than mechanical. Mechanical is very expensive, but prescribed fire acre by acre is our most cost-effective tool.
So I loved Ms. McLeod's question and just preventative, et cetera. We see what's happening on the West Coast. And it's very scary. It's more, to me, it's more frightening to be in a fire than it is a hurricane because we can kind of predict and we all kind of know what to do. And the fire is so unpredictable. So I'd say anytime that we have the ROI is that great and the benefit to me is like significant, I would probably, as much as you can, do more.
We have crews in Okeechobee County right now doing prescribed burn for the district. So yeah, we try to wake up every morning and see where we can apply this tool to benefit the ecology and the safety of.
Somehow I'm on that notification list.
Yeah.
It's just like, I know you're doing your work. So my other question is within your budget request for the Green Heart, and I think I asked this last time, is there a marketing line item? Because I would say if I surveyed my friends, they would look at me like I had 8 eyes. What is Green Heart? And what can you do there? So my thing is to getting it out to the public and more, I mean, Chamber of Commerce, whatever, Realtor Association, they don't know about it. Who do they talk to? I mean, so is there a marketing component to this? What is the plan?
I can't speak to the marketing component, but certainly we'll get a lot more attention once these areas become more open and available to the public. We'll have these 2 access points starting in just in a few weeks. We'll have a public small game hunting area later this year. So that in and of itself will bring a sense of marketing. But beyond that, I can't speak to what the district or the state would be doing. Besides talking about it at these meetings, talking about it at a public forum. We have recreation forums every 3 months at the district. Certainly we're mentioning that quite often.
And Michelle wants to know what frogging is. Like, so I heard a
I was like,
laugh,
frog?
and I'm like, I would like you to collect cane toads, but frogging, I mean, obviously it's a sport and is it big here?
It is. It's native frogging. It's just what you think it is. You're going out there fishing and hooking, spearing frogs at night.
To eat them?
I have. Do I eat them?
No, to eat them.
What's the purpose?
People do, yes. Garlic and butter, they're not bad.
I bet it tastes like chicken. Yeah, okay, great. Thank you for all your answers and the great presentation.
Okay, Mr. Hill? Go ahead.
Michelle, the Everglades Rod and Gun Club does a really good job with frog legs, in case you're interested. So more seriously, a couple things. I'll try to be a resource on the PR side. My neighbor in Chokoloskee is a writes for the Florida Sportsman, and when it's time, I think I'll start needling him to get an article together on that, since he's familiar with that area and it'd be a great way to get exposure for your new resource. My question to you is on the budget side, specific to dealing with the invasives, be it plant or animal. I'm just questioning whether that budget's enough, given all the challenges that you have, especially with the Green Heart area and python removal. Is that enough? It seems like that's What would be your wish number?
Reasonably.
Yeah, that's it.
But where you have the resources to actually
Yeah.
spend it and put it into
Yeah.
action.
Right. No, certainly invasive vegetation management would be a good place to put as much money as you can. The problem with just throwing more money at it is, are there enough contractors to do the work? And we have
Okay.
found ourselves, even with all the money in the world, there's not enough contractors to go and do the work, believe it or not. So it's, right now, well, it's Friday, so maybe not Friday, but throughout the week, the district has had hundreds of contractors out throughout the 16 counties battling the invasive vegetation front. So and that's just a district. And you've got FWC, you've got the county, you've got the state, you've got different municipalities. So there's a large pressure on those contractors to do this work. So yes, more money is good, but having the tools to do it is equally as important.
Okay. And then I know in the specific to the Python situation, could you give me an update on the number of people that you're contracting with and what your vision is for that? I've actually come across a few of them recently.
Our contractor base for the Python program varies between 50 to 55. Right now, I believe we have 55. FWC through their contractor program also has 55. That's not including the volunteers and the assistants that go out with them. That's not including the great work from the conservation, the Southwest Conservancy. There's lots of different activities, both at a federal level in Everglades National Park, Big Cypress, the state agencies. I would agree with Ian that we need to keep supporting his program, our state programs, but also look forward to what type of technology and innovations are out there. And we've all talked as a group, and we think that if we're able to put that equity in now for some type of genetic study, it could yield some benefits years from now. But
Got it.
that would take some time, money, and patience.
And I heard that too, and I'll be talking to Ian and institutions that may have the resources to assist in that area as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Rory, you mentioned a number when you were talking about visitors to Bird Rookery Swamp, and the number was 100,000, but I didn't catch the time frame.
Throughout the year.
So
100,000 visitors throughout the entire year.
Last year.
Yeah, and if back in 2015, that annual visitation rate was around 45 to 50,000 people. So it's doubled. The number of trails, the mileage of trails has increased. The access points have increased in the last 10 years. So it's been a very popular place, and it's perfect timing for these facilities to be coming online.
Right, because the upgrades will make it even more of a pleasure to visit. And I wanted to give you a special thank you again for that restroom, because of your work and getting that extra, or that restroom that didn't have a home, diverted and put over there at Bird Rookery. We're getting that restroom installed a lot sooner than we would have been just putting it and planning it in our capital program. So that was all you, and I really appreciate that, and I'm sure the board appreciates that work that you did. Greenheart, I'm going to set some time up to go out there and see all the great work you're doing before the next governing board. So let's set that up. And that's one of the things, I mean, I'm so proud of that acquisition that the district did. I mean, that is just an incredible piece of property that we were able to get. And now, as the district works through all of these amenities, right, to make it accessible for our community to go out and enjoy, I think it's really going to catch on. It's going to be a great spot to go. So thank you for all the work on that. Anything else for Rory? Thank you, Rory.
Madam Chair, we
Yes.
have one registered speaker on
Oh,
the side.
excuse me. Yes, thank you. Public
Marissa,
comment.
Marissa Figueroa.
Sorry about that.
Hello again, Marissa Figueroa, Policy Specialist for Audubon, Florida. Thank you again for the opportunity to provide comments. And I would like to begin by just recognizing and commending the Big Cypress Basin team for their ongoing work at Bird Rookery Swamp and Corkscrew Marsh, particularly for implementing prescribed fire and their continued management of Carolina willow. As a close neighbor to and partner through Corkscrew Swamp Sanctuary, we greatly appreciate this work and the Basin's commitment for thoughtful science-based approach to land management. So it was mentioned before that Carolina willow is a native species, but when we do have the altered hydrologic conditions, it can become overly dominant. And when water is held for extended periods of time, willow expansion can significantly increase evapotranspiration and then therefore contribute to premature dying of marsh systems. And maintaining these healthy marsh systems continues to be an essential continues to be essential because it does provide critical functions, including water storage, improved water quality, wildfire resilience that we talked about, and even habitat support. So that effective management of willow really helps to restore our more natural conditions and to allow that native vegetation to recover to support fish, invertebrates, and our wading birds. And additionally, that use of prescribed fire, we did mention, or you did mention this as too, that vegetation management plays a very important role in reducing those hazardous fuel loads and lowering that wildfire risk to our neighboring communities is particularly important throughout our drought conditions that we've been continuing to experience. So we do appreciate the Basin's continued leadership and commitment to this work, and thank you again for the opportunity to provide comment.
Thank you very much. And there's no other public comment, so thank you, Rory. All right, that brings us to the Picayune Strand Restoration Project Operations and Maintenance, and we have Rich Virgil here today. Rich, it's all yours.
Thank you. Good morning, board, or good afternoon, board. Rich Virgil, I'm the Field Operations Director for South Florida Water Management District, which is overseeing the 8 field stations, which includes the Big Cypress Basin Field Station, as well as land resources. So I'm here today to give you an overview of what it's taking to operate and maintain the Picayune Strand Restoration project. So just a quick overview. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it, but it's a good place to start with just an overview of what the project itself is, right? So we're trying to restore the natural flow to 55,000 acres of native Florida wetlands. So we had to construct these 3 large pump stations, the Miller, Falcaunia, and Merritt pump stations. We also had to construct a tieback levee that interconnects the 3 pump stations together. Then there was the removal of over 260 miles of road, plugging 50 miles of canal, and also removing over 60 miles of logging roads. And then most recently, the project features that were completed were the Southwest Protection Features, which includes the 7.2-mile levee and conveyance canal, as well as water conveyance features under US 41 and County Road 92. And then all the way to the south, the last piece of the project, the Manatee mitigation area. Keep in mind, this isn't only a restoration project now with the backfilling of all of these canals and everything in this area. Now, this is also a flood control project for the I-75 corridor and the communities to the north of this area. So we built 3 very large pump stations in conjunction with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So the first one here describing is the Miller pump station. It's 1,560 CFS. It has 6 large diesel pumps, 2 electrics. The pumps are driven by the Caterpillar engines, and they have speed reducing gearboxes that transmit the power from the engine to the pump. The facility is backed up with emergency power for 2 redundant generators and 2 800 kW Caterpillars generators, as well as auxiliary systems. Unlike your car engine is equipped with all of the little things that it needs to run. It has pumping for lubrication and water and cooling and what it needs to run as a unit. But with a large diesel engine, all of these things are off skid or off engine. The lubrication systems for the engine are off engine. The cooling water systems have to be auxiliary systems and so on. Also the lubrication for the for the pumps themselves. So those are all other systems that have to be maintained. We have automated trash rake systems on all of these pump stations, large fuel farms, because these fuel farms, have to be sized to run these pump stations for like I think the requirement now is 7 days of all units running continuously for 7 days. We have to have that much fuel on hand. And then, of course, the communications like Tom had spoke of earlier, these pump stations have to be seen back at B1 at the headquarters and by Brad. And then, the electric units can be run and remotely controlled. So that's a description, and we're going to have the other two on here, but just generally the operation and maintenance, these of course includes the fuel and electric to run the stations. And then all of the equipment in here has to be maintained in what we call preventative maintenance mode, right? So you have to do oil changes and filter changes. You have to calibrate instruments. A lot of different things have to go on. Eventually, as you get these stations get older, there will also be requirements for modernization and upgrades for electronics and as the engines get hours on them, they have to go through refurbishment cycles and overhauls. So you start slow and then it picks up as the facilities get older and the intensity of the maintenance that takes place. But even in saying that, we know that some of these pump stations had some critical issues early in their life with major pump station shafting that had to be replaced at several of these stations. So it's always not just age, but unknown. So we also have the second one here. We have the Vaca Union Station. This is the largest of the three at 3,120 CFS. It has 6 engines as well. Much larger engines at almost 1,500 horsepower apiece. Large generators at 1,000 kilowatts. That's a 1 meg generator. That's a very large generator. A lot of operations and a lot of maintenance has to be taken care of. One of the things here you see in this photo, the fuel farm, you can see just how large the fuel farm is with multiple tanks and all of the piping and everything. It's all outside in the elements. This takes a lot of maintenance and stuff to keep these things clean, rust-free, painted, upgraded, to make sure that they always function as they're supposed to. And then here's the Merritt Station, quite a bit smaller, but still very large. 4 large diesel engines, 2 electrics, 500 and almost 600 horsepower Caterpillar engines run this one as well. We have all of these things that we have to take care of. It's quite intensive, and the guys do a great job from the field station maintaining and operating these pump stations. So then the backside of each one of these pump stations, in order to spread the water out into the newly restored area, has what we call a basin, a spreader basin. These spreader basins have to be kept clear of vegetation, and they flow the water to a series of weirs that overflow and then distribute the water into the restored areas. So the vegetation within these areas has to be maintained and kept low. You don't want preferential flow patterns to establish themselves within the area so that water diverts to one side of the basin instead of the other. You want it to evenly distribute itself across the basin and flow out into the restored areas. So there's a lot of activities associated with controlling vegetation in these areas. So we'd use herbicide and mechanical treatments. There's each one of these has a basin like this. It totals about 285 acres total. So it is a lot of area to maintain for this purpose. Then we had mentioned earlier in the features, there's a tieback levee that ties all of these pump stations together. So that as the water flows south, it protects the areas from the north from flooding. It's 8.5 miles long. We have to mow it. We have to grade the road. We have to do erosion repairs, and we have to control unwanted vegetation as well. There's also service roads out here that allow staff to get to all of the pump stations. It also allows for public access to the area for use. And it also allows forestry to use the roads for the things that they need to do, even fighting fires out here. Maintenance of these roads also allows us to meet our obligations under an agreement that we have for forestry to take care of these roads. And again, you have grading and mowing and erosion repairs that have to take place for these as well. And the manatee mitigation area down south. So this is a harboring safe protection area for the manatees during cold water events and things. So we also, it's very remote area. It's tough to get to. We have to go down there and mow. We have to do vegetation control, erosion control and whatnot. There's water quality sampling that's done down here by grab samples on a monthly basis, as well as continuous monitoring that's done by this buoy that's located here in the manatee mitigation area. It's doing conductivity, stage temperature being one of the biggest things that we want to look at, because I believe it is when water temperatures get below 70 degrees, it can be dangerous for manatees. This buoy is pulled out annually and cleaned and maintained and put back in, and that's done by our water quality group. Also, we do a lot of vegetation, invasive vegetation management out here through our land resources group. So there's kind of two different areas. So you have the construction footprint, right? All the roads that had to be removed and the canals that had to be backfilled. That's a lot of disturbed area. So you're managing invasive grasses within these areas and the tram areas. And then the non-construction footprints, the areas that haven't been disturbed have areas of Brazilian pepper, Kogan grass, Lygodium, and Melaleuca. The district does a treatment annually in these areas, moving from the Merritt phase west to the Miller phase, and we're treating around 12,000 acres a year out there as we move ourselves across the entire facility. And then coming up here, I believe in November, we're supposed to take on the maintenance and operation of the features for the Southwest Protection Levee. Like I had spoke before, 7.2 miles of canal and levee that have to be mowed and graded and maintained. There's multiple culverts out here now that have to be taken care of as well. There's 3 culverts associated with the project. As you can see here, 2 of them are triple 60-inch culvert installations and a double. And then we have the conveyance features under US 41, the 3 large box culverts under the highway there. In the future, this could be some challenges associated with maintaining these, right? So they're under the roadway. The canal on the north side has to flow the water through and underneath. So this could require us to coordinate with FDOT for lane closures and maintenance of traffic to allow staff and contractors to get in there to either clear out the culverts, maintain the vegetation on the upstream side and such. So we'll see how we take on those challenges as we move forward. And then there's a couple of other culverts to the south here. We have the one that goes under County Road 92 and this Indian Village culvert as well. Just a couple of pictures of the Southwest protection features. There's the levee with the culvert 3. You can see the culvert installation and the stilling wells in the picture. So obviously there's going to be SCADA maintenance associated with it as well. And then a nice aerial view of the Southwest protection feature and how it cuts through along the western side of the forest. Okay, so annual recurring costs. So this slide is going to give you an overview of the total cost to maintain the area. So the big winner, of course, is the pump stations. We have the fueling and electrical use consumption there, levee and mowing, as I had said, terrestrial plant control, all the way down through the SCADA and the monitoring for water quality, as well as threatened and endangered species monitoring. And we have the manatee protection area that we're spending about $0.3 million, $300,000 on the levee maintenance and a lot of costs associated with the monitoring as well. The vegetation management activities range between 5 million to a little over 7. As I described earlier, then the Southwest protection feature that's coming to us for the mowing and the environmental monitoring and such, around $500,000. So estimates at this point are somewhere between about $8 million to $10 million a year to operate and maintain the Picayune Strand Restoration project. So then what is the Basin's request? What's the Basin's budget request that we need from the Basin to help us support this? So we're looking for about $2 million for the pump station work, the maintenance that we do there. About 83,000 for the manatee mitigation, and again, 85,000 for the Southwest protection feature. As you can see here, one of the big items that came off all of this is the water quality, and the monitoring piece is not in this budget or this request. So we end up with a request from the Basin for approximately $2.1 million. It does exclude the staffing costs because they're done through through the field station, which runs somewhere between 600 to 800,000 a year. There is some reimbursement from the Corps on this because it is a Corps cost shared project. And it is operation and maintenance, so we actually do get money back from the Corps on it. It's not just part of the cost share feature where we balance the ledger, but we actually do get money. So we're looking at somewhere between 1.4 to 1.5 million back from the Corps on this. And then Candy and her group will be working with us to start updating costs and things associated with the project on May 4th of this year. And with that, I can take any questions you have.
Okay, thank you, Rich. Ms. McLeod?
Yeah, thank you, Rich. I'm trying to get an understanding of how these pump stations work. So do they all three share one basin, or do they each have their own?
They each have
basin?
their own. So each one of them is picking up the flood waters that would come down the canal that it's associated with, Miller, Merritt, and Faka. So normally before the project, those canals cut all the way through the project and then went into the, south and eventually into Florida Bay to the south. So at this point now, those canals within the project footprint have all been backfilled. So each of those pump stations picks up the floodwaters from each of those canals and pumps it up onto the land to rehydrate the wetlands. But as part of that, right, each pump station has its spreader basin in front of it to make sure that the water is distributed evenly and smoothly across that landscape.
Okay, and I'm starting to understand all this. So then were those basins already there, or are they?
No, they were constructed as part of the pump.
Okay, they're man-made.
Station part of yes, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, and then my last question is, will those pump stations always be there, or will Mother Nature take it back?
They will always be there.
Yeah, okay.
Right, because we need to intercept and pick up those floodwaters from those three canals and then put that up on the land.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the water is flowing from the north.
Yeah.
Okay, to
Right.
the pump stations.
Exactly.
And then the pump stations distribute it across the restoration project. Okay, but the water that Rich is talking about is coming down the canal from the Golden Gate Estates.
But
Right.
but I guess my dream would be where it would then take over its natural course again.
But you have a whole community north of those pump stations.
Right.
People living in their businesses and their homes and everything
And stopping that natural flow.
that need flood control, that need flood protection.
Right. Those three
Okay.
canals serve as flood control for those neighborhoods north of I-75 and the I-75 corridor. So as that water drains off that land and into those canals, these pump stations will intercept that water and put it up onto the land to rehydrate the wetlands within the Picayune Strand.
Okay.
So they have to operate indefinitely to do that function.
Okay.
Great. Is there any other questions for Rich? Rich, I think you did a good job laying out all of the costs, that it's not as simple as it sounds, to run a flood control operation and provide that.
Yeah, I want to
That's what-
thank Candy and her team for helping me with the cost, and Dan and his team for all the excellent photos and information, as well as Roy.
And that was great that this was the first time that the cost, Rich went through the cost for the Picayune Strand as we move forward with that. So great job, because it's always tough to do it for the first time. And so thank you for getting it that far. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, next item. Oh, do we have any public comment? Okay, no public comment. The next item on the agenda is the Lower West Coast Water Supply Conditions Update, and we have Carolina Moran today and Anushi Obasakara.
Good morning. We didn't have lunch, so I can still say good morning.
That's one way to look at it.
Good morning, Ms. Roman, Chairman. Good morning, governing board members. I'm here just to provide an update on a water supply overall, our Lower West Coast water supply plan, and then also cover the water shortage conditions, dry season, approaching of the dry season that we have here in this region. So I also want to take this opportunity to introduce our new borough chief, Anushi Obasakara. I know, Ms. Roman, you were trying to meet her in person. The last 2 times the videos didn't work. This time she's here in person.
It's wonderful to have her here. Thank you
Yes,
for
no,
doing that,
thank you.
Carolina.
So she's going to join me in this presentation. I'm going to cover the first part, talking about the water supply plan, and then she's going to talk about the water conditions in the system right now. And thank you, Anushi, for joining me. Okay, so water supply planning is statutorily required in Florida. We need to identify water supply sources and future projects to meet the demands. We do that on a 10% chance, 1 in 10-year drought conditions. And we usually have 20 years planning horizon. This next cycle that is coming, we are targeting 2050. And then, of course, we do that in a way that we sustain water resources and natural systems. The water supply planning is linked to several key actions that we do in the agency to protect natural systems, to also link to the local comprehensive planning. So as those developments, land use is being planned at the local level, it's linked to water supply needs and demands in the overall system and what we have in terms of resources. We also have permitting regulation that we also link to the planning efforts and alternative water supply sources, right? This is also part of the planning. I want to say that we have been doing this seeking for ensuring all those links for many years. The past 5 years, we have been utilizing additional tools to reinforce those links, to reinforce the way that we do those comprehensive reviews and just continue to evolve planning, right, as an instrument in the agency. So really great work that the team is doing in terms of integrating all those processes. When we talk about water supply, the very first thing we need to look at is what is our source. And groundwater is really the main source, the most important source here in the Lower West Coast. Let's walk you through this figure a little bit. So you're going to see those colored dots in the map and also in the figure on the left. Those are really the main precious aquifer sources that we have serving this region. So please ignore the green bars for a second. Just look through those dots. We have here the yellow dots showing the most shallow aquifer, which is the water table. So in some locations, we do have wells in this that utilize the water table aquifer. This is the shallow, most fresh aquifer, I would say, most affordable aquifer. And then we have the lower Tamiami aquifer next. Those are the purple dots. You can see widespread utilization that of this main source here in this region. This is certainly one of the main sources that we have. And also, I mean, just going around in terms of how we can utilize those sources as backups too. So that's kind of how the utilities plan and prepare. They usually will have more than one source to be utilizing throughout the season. The next one that we see also widely utilized is the sandstone aquifer. We have here blue and green dots illustrating where we have them, also throughout the region. And we also have the last most here that we are pointing, Mid-Horton aquifer. You can see also a significant number of locations that are depending on those aquifers. Just one note for you. Those dots, we have a lot of those dots. This is really representing a widespread utilization, not just from utilities, but users in general, and some of that overlap. So we might have in one location here a well that really reaches all those aquifers, and we are just not able to see all of that in the map. And then I think just important to recognize here, as the tendency is as deeper as you go, the less fresh, the more brackish those aquifers are. And they also, that translates in more cost to treat them and to really distribute them to the population. So I believe those are the big overview. I know we are also looking at Upper Florida Aquifer as some alternative sources of water in some of the regions. We have very important tools that help us protect those resources, right? So first is the water use permitting. As we walk through every new user that will come or renewals, to ensure that when we authorize this use is done in a sustainable way that is within the limits of the aquifers. We also have minimum flows, minimum water levels that are established to protect the environment, to protect the natural resources in general, and help us to maintain those aquifers, again, ensuring that everybody that is utilizing the aquifer will continue to utilize, and those ecological functions will continue to exist as we use this resource sustainably. We also have water reservations that we also utilize for some of those important projects, and restricted allocation areas when we need to reduce, limit somehow the allocation of those aquifers due to a condition that is depleting the aquifer. So we have more than one resource protection that we can apply, so different tools that we can apply to one water body. And today, these tools protect a significant large area within our limits here in the district, about 7.4 million acres and about 70% of the entire district. So a significant number of tools, important tools that really ensure that we are utilizing those resources in a sustainable way. In terms of the planning itself, the document, it was legally required in 1997. We have been doing since 1994. The most recent one was in 2022. And next year, we're going to start this Lower West Coast plan here again, the update in 2027. So it's a good heads up to you. We're going to start workshops. The team is already working on data collection and some of those efforts that we start early on to support the development of the plan. We'll have several stakeholder engagements, so please be attentive of those efforts that are coming. We're going to keep you all updated. A very important thing, I already touched the link to local planning when I talk about the local comprehensive plans. There is also a very important instrument that helps us on this local planning link, which is our facilities work plan, water supply facilities work plan. So basically, when we complete an update to a water supply plan in a region, we ask all the water utilities main users to develop the facility work plan, telling us what projects they have in their CIP that will be developed to achieve the water demands that we have identified in the plan. So it's basically how you're implementing at the local level the projects, the tools that you need to ensure that the water demand is achieved. So we look at that, we review those work plans, we ensure the work plan is fully also tied to the comprehensive plan locally. And really every November, we ask them to submit us annual progress updates. A last important link here with the planning that I'm going to cover today is the saltwater interface mapping. So in parallel to developing the plans and mapping demands and projects that the utilities are working and programs that we also have to support them in this implementation projects, we also are carefully looking at saltwater intrusion risks, right? We do planning, assessing all the potential risks that we have in the region. Saltwater is one of them. So what we do is every 5 years, we do a more intense analysis effort, data analysis effort. We look carefully on all the data that we have from utilities, from a lot of partners like USGS have monitoring wells. That we have a few of them, the counties have, and utilities, even through their permits or just as they're also taking care of this concern, they are also monitoring data. So what we do is we sit down, we plan this with them, we collect all best available data, and we do a comprehensive exercise to update what we call a line, a saltwater intrusion line. This line represents when we achieve 250 milligrams per liter of chloride. So we are doing those estimates, right, based on the data that we have, and we estimate if this line, where is it located? And then, of course, we compare that to previous years, just to understand if we are seeing any kind of shift of these saltwater intrusion inland, which is what we don't want to see, and then take proactive actions to ensure that we maintain this saltwater intrusion line towards the coast. We do that by aquifer, and I have just a few examples here I presented to you in the past. This is just in the water table aquifer, the shallowmost aquifer that we have here. We have some examples. So this is a very dense map. We have that available, and I provided a link here to you if you want to explore the tool. But basically, all the dots that we have here are wells. When we see a star, it's because it's a new well that was added in that year. And then you're going to see in those a series of lines in some locations that are overlapping, but basically the black line starting in 2009. Then 5 years later, 2014 is like CN line. Then we have the 2019, which is the dot red line. And then finally the purple, which was the most recent map published in 2024. So we do see some locations that we see a transition inland and towards the coast. We monitor those, we install additional wells, we share those results with utilities, and we continue to understand what actions can be done again to continue to protect those resources. I explained to you already in the past this area here in Naples when we see a big shift, it's truly related to a new well we didn't have in the past, so it's much more a gap than really a concern. But again, we document that, we can explore that, and continue to coordinate with utilities in trying to understand what are the actions we can do to prevent the saltwater intrusion. And finally, I just want to recognize, and also talking about this, the topic of like long-term resilience and how we continue to protect the water resources. It's very important to reinforce that all those restoration efforts that we have been prioritizing and really advancing in this area really support mitigation against overall water supply vulnerabilities under current and future conditions. And they're really aligned with adaptation strategies that are needed to build water supply, water resources resilience in Florida. So it's really, there is a lot that has been done already in terms of protecting against water intrusion and ensuring sustainable water supplies through the efforts that we do on restoration. With that, I'm going to transition to Anushi. She's going to cover the season updates, where we are right now. And thank you again, Anushi.
Thank you. I was going to say good morning or good afternoon, but since Carolina said good morning, I'll stick with that. Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. So looking at the dry season, we're approaching the end of April, and typically our wet season starts around May 22nd, but you'll notice that it's still pretty dry out there. So we're hoping to see some more rain coming here, but we are kind of ending the dry season right now. Where are we in terms of our rainfall though for this, the Basin area? The graphic on the left-hand side shows you from the start of the dry season late last year where we are moving forward. So what happens is basically you can see in the shading in the graph, you see where we're at 10%, 20%, and the recent rainfalls with the red line, you can see it kind of popped up. So what that means is we were trending on the drier side and we are still drier than normal, but the recent rainfalls have helped us move up so that now we're at about a 60% drier than normal. But like I said, those recent rainfalls have improved our overall conditions. Overall, from a U.S. drought monitor side, in February, where we started was within the Basin area. We were in a severe drought to extreme drought. That was in February. Moving to now, you see we are now actually area-wide in an extreme drought. So we've seen a little bit of rainfall, but it's still pretty extreme for our drought. Status of our groundwater levels. We are continuously monitoring our groundwater levels. We look at this on a weekly basis. We're basically tracking and doing a statistical analysis to look at where our groundwater levels are currently compared to that same time of the year for all of the years past. You can see, focusing here on the basin, we have a few wells that we're looking at: Surficial, Lower Tamiami, and Mid Hawthorne. And what you can see is that our Lower Tamiami wells are currently showing green, which means they're in the 25th to 75th percentile ranking. But we do have one Lower Tamiami well towards the east that's in the 10 to 24th percentile. And we also have a Mid Hawthorne aquifer well that's in the below 10%. We do not want to see the red on the map. But what you're going to notice is if we don't get a lot of rainfall, you're going to see those colors shift on a week-to-week basis. And of course, as Carolina mentioned, 95% of our public water supply comes from groundwater, so it's essential for us to keep monitoring this. So our ongoing dry season on February 5th, 2026, a water shortage warning was issued for 3 main areas. The one that you really particularly care about is the Lower Tamiami Aquifer in Collier County. It's heavily utilized, as you saw in that graphic that Carolina presented. And in February 12th, 2026, the governing board approved the resolution to allow our executive director to issue an order if conditions warrant. Right now, we're just under the water shortage warning. So looking particularly at the Lower Tamiami Aquifer in Collier County, you can see here the map on the left shows the exact well that we're discussing. It's the well that's in the 10 to 24th percentile class. What the graph shows you is from October to July, all of the highs and lows are represented in the gray shading area. The orange and the blue lines are previous water shortage years. The black line is this year, so 2026. And you'll notice that the reason we started to get concerned is you'll see we're starting to hit the minimums, right? This year, January, February, early March, we were at the very minimum, which means we were drier than we've actually seen historically. And so we got concerned and we said, okay, we need to issue that water shortage warning. But then recently we had some rainfall and you can see that the water level in that well actually increased. So now we're trending more along the 2020 line. And so that's just that benefit of having that rainfall. And so with that came a lot of coordination with the utilities and reaching out to them. They actually do the most monitoring. You saw we had a couple of wells that the district is actively monitoring, but our utilities monitor a lot of data, right? They need to make sure they're protecting of their resource in their well field. So we started coordinating with them, and on a weekly basis, they share their monitoring data with us for the Lower Tamiami. And that's what's shown on this slide. You can see all of the locations that the utilities are providing to us, and you can see all of the chloride data. So instead of water levels, this is their water quality. And what we're looking for here is, are their chloride levels staying consistent? If they're within, maybe 10 or 20 milligram per liter, it doesn't give us a lot of concern that there's saltwater intrusion that could be happening, right? So what we've been looking at, and we get together bi-weekly, is looking at those chlorides, making sure that there's no cause for concern on the water quality side. And what the utilities are saying is they do not have a concern at this time, and that is because they've been making modifications to how they operate their water use permit. Either they're shifting water use away from the coastal region, or they're prioritizing other sources other than the Lower Tamiami. All of the utilities within the basin have that ability to shift, whether it's moving towards the east or whether it's going to an alternative source, or like Marco Island, they have their ASR well, so they have a lot of water stored in there for dry times. So as I mentioned, it's been a lot of enhanced coordination, joint action. The district met with with Lisa's help, we met with a lot of the water users out here, and we kind of wanted to make sure, what are the conditions that they're seeing? What can we do to be better? And so after that in-person meeting, That's when we decided, okay, we're going to check weekly monitoring. They're actually not required to do weekly monitoring. That's something that they're coordinating with us, and they've gotten with their consultants and their contractors to provide that weekly monitoring to us. We now do bi-weekly calls where we discuss the conditions, see if they have any concerns. Are we seeing any trends that were a little bit concerning to us? And thankfully, with all the proactive steps the utilities have taken, we're not seeing any concerns at this time. They have, as I mentioned, optimized their well field operations. They're submitting that weekly water level and chloride data. We're getting it from Collier County's pollution control. We're getting it from Collier County's utility. We're receiving it from the city of Naples, and we're receiving it from Resource Conservation Systems. They've also been very proactive with their water conservation messaging, their public outreach, and their enhanced watering restrictions, particularly in the city of Naples. And so we're just so appreciative and thankful that they've been coordinating so heavily with us to get this message out there. So April is Water Conservation Month. It was established in 1998, and we've been using April as Water Conservation Month since then. It's a collaboration between American Water Works Association, the Water Management Districts, and Florida DEP. And so the goal here is to raise awareness about conserving water. And the reason that's important is because of the growth in population. So here on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see how population has grown over the years since 1995 within the basin, within Collier County, along with how much water those utilities are utilizing. So you can see in 1995, the county was using about 30 million gallons a day with a population of about just a little bit around 300,000 people. Moving to today, in 2025, the county population is around 450,000, and we're using 60 million gallons a day. So we're using a lot more water, but our population has also increased significantly, right? So it's important for us to kind of keep track of conservation and put that messaging across so we can conserve the water resources that we have. And so what are the options for conservation or utilizing more water? There's always the option to expand or add new alternative water supply sources. And we're very happy to say that the utilities out here have been doing that very well. They've diversified where they can get their water from. They've prioritized reclaim. They've looked at they've embraced alternative water supply, even though there's a very high capital cost with it, right? But they're also decreasing their demands by using water conservation methods. So it's a good message here. And so, of course, embracing those simple steps to save water, Florida-friendly landscaping, turf reduction, making sure you have rain shut-off devices. And then, of course, for those of us that have maybe older fixtures in our house, replacing those and making sure we're just water efficient in general. And so one of the big pushes that we had is the year-round irrigation ordinances, where the district tried to push for 2 days. Some counties have 3 days per week for their irrigation ordinance. So we wanted to, reach out and say we're thankful that all of the utilities and areas in the basin have embraced some type of year-round irrigation ordinance. The city of Naples in particular has, during the water shortage, embraced a 2-day-a-week irrigation restriction. Every other region within the basin is actually on a 3-day-per-week rule. And Naples is typically 2. It's just during the water shortage they've chosen to do the 2-day-a-week. So with that, I wanted to kind of share what happens when you move down to 2 days a week. So in Naples, they've actually, again, been providing us all of their withdrawal data. And what we found is that when you compare the days that we're watering compared to the days you're not watering, there's almost a 1 million gallon per day savings just in the city of Naples.
Wow.
So it really does work. And that's why we really want to prioritize utilizing those small changes that we can say, irrigate 2 days instead of 3 days. It really does make a difference. And of course, in addition to all of those options, we have district endorsed partnership programs. Some of the recognition programs, LEED is very famous. Green Globes is also similar to LEED. It's a certification program. We have Water Sense, Florida Water Champ, which is actually for hotels and motels. Florida Friendly Landscape, which I'm sure many people are familiar with, and then Florida Water Star, which was initiated by St. Johns River Water Management, and then they actually made it statewide later on. And then the district also has the cooperative funding program in partnership with the DEP. It's local implementation of water saving technology. There's also an alternative water supply component. And since 2017, for water conservation projects in particular, there's been 2 projects in Collier County itself. We've had about 118,000 in funding approved for those projects, and that's an estimated 27.5 million gallons a year that we're saving. And again, that's since 2017, and we've also had additional alternative water supply projects for that too. And then for public communications and outreach, the district has done a lot of social media posts pertaining to water shortage warnings, and that's reached a lot of people. But what we really want to highlight here is the local messaging that's happened, right? The city of Naples, as I mentioned, has done the irrigation restrictions. Collier County has done a video, they're putting it on their water bill, and they've done 15 social media posts. And so that's been amazing to see, you know, when we're looking at who's reaching out to their constituents and letting them know about water conservation. And then Resource Conservation Systems, which has a couple golf courses here, they've also had a water conservation page just asking everybody to really limit how you're irrigating, make sure you're watering at the appropriate times, and just highlighting water conservation in general. And so future coordination and things to look out for is, as Carolina mentioned, we have the 2027 Lower West Coast Water Supply Plan that will be coming out next year. We will be coming back to the board to coordinate with you on a draft plan that'll be happening probably towards the end of next year. We're gonna have some updated modeling, a groundwater model that can look at saltwater intrusion, look at sea level rise scenarios and things like that. That'll be happening around 2028. The model's currently under development, but it probably will not be ready to go until 2028. And then 2029 is a big year because all the facility, water supply facility work plans, the updates to the comprehensive plans, all are due May 2029, and that will be the same year that we update our saltwater interface mapping. So those are all the things that we have to look forward to. And we're going to continue to coordinate locally. As Carolina mentioned, we've already started the data collection process for the 2027 water supply plan. And with that, we essentially start looking at demands and projections, and we coordinate with utilities, making sure that everybody's on board with that process well before we actually even present to the stakeholders. So it really is a very coordinated effort that we do with our water supply plans. And with that, we'll take any questions.
Board questions for Anushi? Go ahead, Ms. McLeod.
Yes, thank you, Anishi. Couple questions. So our primary water source is groundwater, and then once we start seeing saltwater intrusion in one well, we'll tap into a different one. But what are other alternative water sources for us? You mentioned them, but specifically.
So depending on where you are, you want to look at the aquifers and you want to figure out which ones are productive. So in particular, for example, Marco Island, they use the Mid-Hawthorne. So it's a little bit deeper. They also have their surface water Marco Lakes that they're pulling from. For Collier County in particular, they have wells not just in the lower Tamiami, but they have the Mid-Hawthorne and they have the lower Hawthorne. So they have 2 different aquifer systems that they can tap into.
I guess what I was asking is, what are the sources outside of an aquifer?
So typically, there really aren't that many sources outside of an aquifer. That's why we prioritize reclaimed water so that you can irrigate using that and not necessarily use you want your potable water to be from groundwater.
And if our community uses groundwater as our primary water source. When you say things like that, tells me that other communities don't use groundwater as their water source. Like, what are other communities, maybe outside of Florida, using for their water source? Or do we all tap into aquifers?
So in South Florida, about 95% is groundwater, but if you're living in other regions, you may use surface water, snow melt. There's other things that are out there that other outside of the state can use.
Okay, as a Florida native, like I don't think outside like that, but yes, snow, okay.
Please speak on the mic, Carolina. No, you got to drag the other.
I would say that most of the US are not groundwater.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then can you go back to your slide 17? And thank God for our groundwater and the wells and the aquifers. Okay, so you on the graph to the right, you show all these different data points from the city. And then with the county, public works and the pollution control. So the city is reporting so much more data as it relates to saltwater intrusion, chloride levels. I'm not sure what D stands for.
So when you're looking at the name of the well, that's what's on the x-axis. So you'll see it's like 302D. That means in well 302, they're going deeper. Sometimes you'll see an S because it's shallow. Sometimes you'll see an I because they're going halfway between, and then the D is usually deep.
And so you have one that says salt too?
Yes.
What does that mean?
So for the city, they have wells that were developed just for saltwater intrusion monitoring. I think it's Salt 1, Salt 2, and Salt 3. And so those wells were particularly drilled to monitor the interface.
Okay, so they have all of those wells and Collier County only has 3?
Collier County only has 3 that are coastal, on the
Okay.
coastal side in the lower Tamiami. Collier County has other wells that are deeper because they use other sources.
I see. That would be interesting to see that kind of map too. And then one last question, if I may, Chair. You had mentioned the population as compared to the water usage, 300,000 people using. Can you go over those numbers again?
Sure. So in 1995, we had about 300,000 people in Collier County, and they were using about 30 million gallons a day. Now in 2025, we have about 400,000 people, right? A little bit more than 400,000, and we're using about 60 million gallons a day.
So we're using double the amount of water, but our population has not doubled.
Correct.
Which is kind of concerning.
It's usually, so irrigation is the biggest piece of
Right.
that public water supply, what you're using. And so if you're irrigating your turf, that's why we kind of keep saying prioritize reclaimed water, prioritize those year-round ordinances for irrigation, because that's where we're using our water.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for this information.
Any other board questions? I'd like to highlight the water supply plan. I don't know if you've had a chance to take a look at it, the board members, if you've had a chance to take a look at it, but it has a lot of useful information, and it also breaks out the utilities and what the utilities have and what they operate with. And that plan that we complete every 5 years feeds into the facilities work plan. And so they then develop their projects, their capital projects and all of their projects to help meet those goals in that plan. And maybe you can add something to what I just said, Anushia. And then when we are evaluating grants, we look at that as well. Go ahead and highlight that.
Sure. So what we do is in the water supply plan during that coordination piece, we look at our demands and we reach out to the utilities and find out what kind of projects they're working on. We write them up in the plan, and then 18 months later, in the water supply facility work plan, those utilities are supposed to come back and say, these are the projects that we're going to use in order to meet all of the demands that we're projecting out for that 20-year planning horizon. And then they have to also give us annual updates. Now, as Madam Chair indicated, for their CFP grant funding, they need to have those projects in there. They need to be working on them. They need to have that facilities work plan in place. And that facilities work plan needs to be kind of lined up with the comprehensive plan as well.
It all fits together. So that's something you can take a look at and see, any specific questions you have locally. You can feed right into that.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Really appreciate you being here today and it's new to your position and it's great to meet you. And thank you, Carolina. I know you've got a new position too, but you've been here before the board, and it's great to have both of you here. So thank you so much for your presentation.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
We do have public speakers on this side.
Okay.
Your first speaker is Marissa Figueroa, and she will be followed by Brad Cornell.
Hello again, Marissa Figueroa, Policy Specialist for Audubon, Florida. Audubon, Florida does remain concerned about the regional water supply conditions, particularly in light of the updated saltwater intrusion map that we saw in today's presentation. In the document, there's the documented inland movement of saltwater that's coming up Henderson Creek to Collier Boulevard, and that raises important questions along the long-term aquifer sustainability in the area that's already experiencing that increasing demand. So these concerns are compounded by the reliance on the aquifer storage and recovery for Marco and Marco Lakes. While the ASR is an important tool for long-term effectiveness, really depends on careful consideration of the cumulative withdrawals or recharge timing and drought conditions, especially where we have saltwater intrusion advancing. So looking ahead with the Lower West Coast water supply update that's scheduled for 2027, it's important to address these implications of continued population growth more directly in Southwest Florida. And protecting our recharge areas and restoring natural hydrology will be critical to sustaining water supplies and understanding those cumulative impacts across the Big Cypress Basin and the Corkscrew watershed. And Audubon, Florida would like to reinforce the importance of watershed scale restoration projects such as the Corkscrew Watershed Initiative as means to enhance recharge, improve system resilience, and long-term risk of inadequate supply for both human and wetland communities. And finally, as mentioned, with it being Water Conservation Month, as the region continues to experience our drought conditions, we really encourage that continued focus on clear public communication around water shortages and conservation expectations to support that meaningful community participation. There were some really great things that were mentioned before, but we hope that continues. And that especially should focus on the largest opportunity for conservation for the reduction of turf grass, as mentioned, for that irrigation demand and trying to then promote Florida-friendly native planting landscapes. So thank you so much for the opportunity to comment, and we do appreciate the district's continued attention to these important water supply issues.
Thank you very much. And I know that you'll be a participant in those meetings and those collaborations as we move forward with the update. Thank you.
Your final registered speaker on this item is Brad Cornell.
Good afternoon, Brad Cornell with Audubon Western Everglades. Madam Chair, thank you for the chance to speak again. And I want to emphasize very strongly what we're talking about in terms of the biggest opportunity for water conservation, and that is the biggest demand for water, which is irrigation for turf grass. And I think that's been underscored by the discussion. The actual demand is something like 40 to 60% of individual homeowners use is for irrigation, 40 to 60%. So it's not just a question of, is it 2 days a week or 3 days a week? How about let's not irrigate at all if we've got Florida friendly or native landscaping instead of turf grass. And so not only are you saving water, but you're saving on fertilizer, pesticide, pollution, these other issues, because even reclaimed water, as efficient as that strategy is, reclaimed water has nutrients in it. And so some people don't realize that, and they fertilize and they use reclaimed water. So you're double fertilizing. And where does that go? It goes into our canals, into our waterways, and we get harmful algal blooms. And so if we really want to be serious, I would encourage the basin and the district to double down on the messaging on conversion of turf grass as much as possible to native plants, native landscaping, something other than turf grass that doesn't require so much irrigation. Nature Where We Live is a new campaign that Audubon Western Everglades is featuring, and one of the primary initiatives that everybody can participate in is this very action of taking half of your grass. Let's treat grass like a throw rug, not wall-to-wall carpeting. How about that for a strategy? The last thing I want to call your attention to, and I'll share this with you all with an email, but that is our colleague, Marissa and my colleague, McKee Gray, just had published in the Miami Herald an op-ed in today's paper, and it's on this exact topic, the benefits of restoration like SERP and CWI, but also what each of us as individuals can do. And that's getting at this whole idea that water conservation and good water management starts with our own yards and neighborhoods. And so take a look at that, McKee Gray in the Miami Herald today, and I'll share that link with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brad, for your comments. Very timely. And I'll look forward to reading that article. Is there any other public comment? No other public comment. Great. We'll go to the field station report. Dan, I had to call you up all the way from the back there.
Not a problem. Gotcha. All right, I'm going to go against the grain a little on this one and say good afternoon.
You must have had lunch.
All right, we'll go over some of the field station's operations and some of our upcoming maintenance activities. Cocohatchee Canal, we recently had an influx of floating vegetation enter the system from this, enter our canal from the secondary system. This accumulated at the Coco 1 structure. This plant, giant Sylvania molesta, is a floating fern from Brazil. Grows at an extremely fast rate. I think it can double its dry weight in every 2.5 days. They identified this plant in the early 90s here in Collier County. It comes in from the secondary system, a small canal that's very, very limited access into the Airport Road Canal, flows to the north into Cocohatchee. We've been able to control it with the county's help. We just can't eradicate it. The county now is working with FWC and some of their biologists to come up with a biological control that may, aid in controlling it or hopefully eradicate it. If there's any good news to it is where it accumulates is our coastal structure, Coco 1, and this plant has a very, very low salt tolerance. So anything that does make it through the system doesn't survive long on the downstream side. 951 canal cleanup, as mentioned in the last briefing we had. Our crews are going around, touching up some of the canals, cleaning debris along the roadsides. I think today they're actually in the Henderson Canal doing the same thing. Cocohatchee 1 gearbox repair. We're getting caught up on a lot of our seasonal repairs, getting ready for the rainy season. It's a lot easier to take some of these structures offline this time of year than requesting permission when, the structures have to operate. As mentioned in a couple of the presentations before this, the Golden Gate tree removal project, you see some before pictures. The work being done, all the work on this project was done from the waterway by barge. The contractor was Arbor Tree and Land. They did a fantastic job on it. Working with Rory's group, the outreach went very well. We had a handful of issues throughout But for the most part, the homeowners understood exactly what we're doing and understood the necessity. It went very well. And here's the Golden Gate tree. This is what it looked like after. We basically regained about 15 feet from the water's edge up into it, into the, our easement. This should help us, going down the road with any storms we get in the future and gives us a little more access. I think when we talked about doing this project, somebody in the board had mentioned seeding or sodding. We've evaluated the area and there's several spots in here where we can seed. Others are rocky and it really wouldn't be of any benefit. But we're working with the vegetation management group to come in as soon as the rains start, and we're going to seed some of the areas where it'll be beneficial. Our 3-month outlook ahead, we're going to continue with our gearbox repairs and our seasonal maintenance. And also we have several debris removal projects we hope to get, complete before the rainy season begins and we're diverted to other activities. Our comprehensive Everglades restoration projects. Spreader basin maintenance. I think Rich brought it up. He was talking about the spreader basins and how we have to keep them clear. We had the vegetation management group come out. They evaluated all 3 of the basins to see if we needed to do another aerial treatment or any mechanical removal in these areas. And they decided that they were all in pretty good shape right now, that our ground service contractors could come in and treat any of the exotics and invasives just with ground service, and it saves us a little bit of time and money. But it also lets us know that, it is working well. Hopefully we don't have to come back every year and do an aerial or a major treatment in there. We can cut way back on herbicide use. Back a Union electric pump replacement. This is the last. There's 3 electric pumps like this at the FACA Union. 2 of them have already been replaced. What this pump does is it pumps water from the downstream side of the structure into a containment basin within the structure. This containment basin, we have auxiliary pumps that draw water out of that containment basin and lubricate all the shafts to the pumps. And as you can see on the picture on the lower right, this shaft was in really rough shape. It actually broke as they were removing it. So it was pretty much just in time that we got this out of there. Our 3-month outlook ahead, we have some wildlife safety training scheduled. The picture on the left is a diamondback rattlesnake that Jesus and I photographed as we were leaving the, I think it was Merritt Pump Station. We're leaving going down the road and he spotted it in the road. And it made us think about it. It's
a big one.
We're going to have some training to let we want to make sure the wildlife is safe from our staff and our staff is safe from the wildlife. And I just think a little outreach will help. They all know the big thing for our guys will be the speed limit. Driving, just because the speed limit is 30 doesn't mean you have to do 30. Then, keep everything under control. Always be aware that, it's warmed up a little now. It's starting to rain and things are moving around. At the same time, at the pump stations, don't just go running out into the tall grass or down into some of the pump bays thinking you're alone down there, because you may not be. Seasonal maintenance, the Vita route, as you see at the bottom, we just replaced the Vita route at the FACA Union pump station. Merritt had already been replaced and Miller had the newer model already installed. This manages our fuel system. Preparing for the turnover of the Southwest Protective Feature. We participate in a lot of the meetings with the Army Corps of Engineers and the contractors, and everything seems to be going really well. Any of the issues that we find going in, we voice them to the engineers and they relay them to the contractor and to the Corps. It's been a really good working relationship. And any questions?
Vice Chair Smith, go ahead.
Looks like you're ready for hurricane season, and are you fully staffed?
I was hoping you were going to ask that question. As of now, we are fully staffed. The first time that anyone can remember. We've talked to a couple people that have been there in the station for over 9 years. And they said this is the very first time they remember that we have been fully staffed.
Crazy. Great. When does the turnover of the levy happen?
I keep hearing November. But I mean, there is no hard date, but I think Brad may have more information on that, but I think it was November. No? Yeah, there you go.
Thank you. Great report as always.
Thank you very much.
Any other board questions? Come back here, Dan.
You're not done.
I almost got away.
You just get one question.
I almost got it.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I wanted to say a couple of things here. Every time I see those aerial photos of the Picayune Strand, it just like takes my breath away because the vastness of the 55,000 acres. And to think that we have so many responsibilities with that completion of that project, district-wide and also Basin. I mean, there's just a lot to be done. And I think Rich earlier painted a good picture of everything that's involved out there. I wanted to say thank you for the job well done on the tree removal project. In my time here, and I'm sure the board agrees that it was the smoothest tree removal project on the canals in the basin that we've had during my time here. And that's a credit to you and your team and working with Lisa as well as the basin administrator. So thank you for a job well done.
And Rory's group did, I mean, they were on top of it from the very start. I mean, really.
Rory, thanks to you too. Really great. But I mean, it was almost the example of how, going forward, hopefully all of them will go. Because it was such great collaboration between everybody that in the district to get that done. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much.
That's it.
Now you got to chase me away. Thank you.
Now you can leave, yeah. Okay, water conditions report with Brad Jackson.
Okay, good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members. Again, Brad Jackson, back to give your presentation on the water conditions since the last meeting back in February. So I'll jump in here with kind of our water, how much rainfall we've had over the last year. You've already heard some of that, so I won't spend too much time here. But generally, it's been, no surprise, drier than we would want it to be. The wet season was also below average this last year. We came in about 91% of average. And then our dry season, like you heard earlier, was about 66% of average. So we're looking at about an 8-inch deficit just since last May. But the thing to note about this as well is that the preceding dry season was also dry than normal. So we already had a deficit going into this water year, which might have made things a little bit drier and a little bit worse than we expected. But overall, the dry season is coming to a close, and we do expect to see some rainfall coming to us towards the end of next month. But since you heard earlier, we did have a little bit more change in rainfall over March and April. We did get some relief from the drought. It didn't dry or bring everything back up, but it did give us about 130% of rainfall in March. And so far, 100% of our normal rainfall in April. It rained yesterday. It'll rain again this weekend and through Monday, so it'll go up even more, but not enough to really take away the drought or anything like that. These levels or numbers are still pretty low, considering we can get 4 inches of rain in an afternoon during June. But really only 2.5 inches fell over the whole course of the March, generally speaking. Some of the areas that got more rainfall in March were the eastern portions, so Fakahatchee and the OK Slough, kind of Lake Trafford area. And then conversely, in April, Faka Union and Henderson Creek got a little bit more than the 2 inches of rainfall. We got 4 or 5 inches of rain in those places. So a little bit more to really help bring up the water levels, surface water levels for us. So I've talked about the rain, the water conditions, the canal levels. How do they look this time of year? Is a snapshot in time as of just a couple days ago. So the map on the left, that's just a network of our canal systems, and it's color coded. The green means for this time of year, you're kind of in your normal condition. Doesn't mean the water levels are high. It just means it's normal for late April. So the water levels are low. I'm not trying to show that we have too much water at this point. But overall, this is about where we would expect to be for the surface water inside just the canals. It doesn't mean the vegetation's not dry and that top area of the land's not dry either. But generally speaking, it looks pretty good. You can see the Picayune Strand. Those are in the black and the blues, which means you're in your upper percentiles. You would expect to see that. We just filled a bunch of canals. It's no longer draining the system. So that looks pretty good. And but the water level is still below ground there as well. In the Corkscrew Swamp Eco Corkscrew Regional Ecosystem Area. Generally, these surface water wells are in the normal range for this time of year. The water levels are generally still below ground though. So I do want to have a little bit different story rather than what I've done historically, which is just tell you about the water levels and everything. I wanted to try and relate the water conditions on the ground today as it relates to some of the capital programs and the capital projects that that Lucinay just talked about. So I was going to talk a little bit about GG5 and FACA Union 5, 6, and 7 and what the conditions are out there today versus, and kind of give you an example of why it's important to do these, besides just for flood control, but what we can do for water conservation to protect our surface water, make sure that we hold it inside of our system when we need it. So what I've got here on the right is a map of this blue line's Golden Gate, Maine. This blue line is FACA Union Canal. And then to orient you, you've got Randall and Everglades Boulevard here. The triangles are the water control structures that we're going to be studying, replacing, doing things with. And then the color, that's the topography. The oranges are higher land elevation, the blues are lower. So you can kind of see outlining here, this is kind of a flowway or low-lying area that's important to protect also from the canals. Very efficient drainage system. So what the system, how it was built in the past is we didn't have remote control capability. Everything was built very low. So you could discharge water, but not overdrain everything. We can do better than that now with all of the upgrades that Tom talked about, that Lucinay talked about. We can do better. We can hold more water in the system and still be able to respond to flood control needs. So we can build up the control elevations and hold more water back during the dry season. So here on the left, this is a graph that you're kind of hopefully used to seeing at this point in time. This is for FACA Union number 5. The green is where the water levels are historically. The blue is now, is this year, and the orange is last year. What I want to highlight here is how low this line is here. This is GG5. This is one of the reasons we have to replace GG5 because you can hold all the water you want here, but if this is too low, it's just going to, go the other way. So if we don't bring this up, we're not going to be able to fix anything. So for example, GG5 this year has been discharging since October. We haven't had much rain. We really don't need to be discharging water. We've discharged 7,100 acre feet, which is about 2.3 billion gallons just since October. And that continues today. I went out there yesterday to take a look at it. That structure is still discharging. So is FACA Union 5. So if we can bring those up and stop that discharge, we can then save the water and promote groundwater recharge and keep the wetlands hydrated longer and provide, water supply for drinking and everything. To talk a little bit, now I've got some pictures to kind of demonstrate that on the next slide, but FACA Union 6 up here, this structure, it's under the water today. It's on the upstream and downstream side. So it's not serving a purpose during dry season. All the control is really being done downstream. In the wet season, it just gets in the way. We want to move water through there. There's a big concrete wall in the canal. We want to get rid of it. So that's why we think we can eliminate that, just like we did at I-75-1. It prevents us from rebuilding a structure, spending millions of dollars to rebuild a structure that's not necessary, and allows us to still keep the water in the system. So this is Golden Gate 5, picture of it yesterday. It's not a dramatic flow over the weir, but that's still today, and it hasn't really rained significantly since October. So there's still water coming over the weir. I know it's more defined right here, but it's really trickling over the whole thing. So it's like a constant leaky faucet you've got on all dry season long that we don't need to do. So that's one of the main benefits we think of replacing this, is to really be able to bring up that groundwater and the surface water levels during the dry season. FACA Union 5 does the same thing. It's not quite as dramatic here. You can see all those 12 gates that Lucinay talked about, but the water's trickling over here. We can't physically hold back any more water today. We would like to. So the goal is to then increase these heights a little bit, put less gates in there, and then also lower this so we can get the water out when we need to. But this just shows an example of, why we need to increase these elevations, and we can hold more water when it's important. Now to talk a little bit about the Corkscrew 3. This was another one that was on the capital project. But to orient you a little bit before I get into the weeds of the project and the conditions out there, the orange area is the crew watershed, and the orange triangles are either monitoring stations that are SCADA or they're water control structures. So this purple, and generally the flow arrows are from the north toward the south and southwest. They discharge into these two water control structures down here, amongst other places I'll show you in a minute, and then Keel and Cocoa 3. Those are the main big outfalls. But the water levels in the heart of the system right here, you can see that same graph, and you can see the blue line. That's this year and how it's declined over the dry season. But we're back in that kind of middle percentile. The water levels aren't too bad there today, considering how dry it's been. But they're a far cry from where you would expect to see them during wet season, which is, several feet higher. And so now moving to the south here, this is the Cork 2. This graph on the left is Cork 2, this triangle right here. This is a project, water control structure that we just upgraded 3-4 years ago, something like that. We upgraded the gates, put remote control on, we're able to hold that water level higher. So this is an example of what I just talked about at GG5. So you can see historically, before we did upgrades, the water levels would be in the green through the dry season, through this side of it and this side over here. But with the upgrades, you can see the orange line. This is last year, you're at the very top. You can't physically hold more water in the system at that point, but it's as topped out as we can possibly make it. But then as you get into this year, lack of rainfall, and one of the other things why we need to continue with the project, the CWI Cork 3 type project, is this blue line here. That's this year. That water continues to decline through the dry season. No gate operations, no flow through Cork 2 happened at that point, and that's just a natural recession. But we think we know where the water might be going to some extent, and this is an actual Cork 3 structure as of yesterday. The pictures on the left, that's me standing on the structure, looking west and looking east. This is a pipe here that comes in from the Bird Rookery Swamp. In the wet season, you can't see it. It's underwater. There's water flowing out of the swamp in the wet season, but at this point it's dropped many feet. You would expect the water to, it goes all the way up to almost the road. Same thing on here. These culverts on the other side of the screen here, these culverts drain this same water body that we're trying to control with Cork 3 as it sits today. So if you go out there and it's like the water just came out all of these pipes, and there's more than just the two. All of the water, not all of it, but a lot of the water we're trying to save inside Bird Rookery then escapes through these culverts. They have no gates, they have no control on them. And that's what leads into some of the work that was in Lucinet's presentation, like the Cork 3, where you saw the layout with culverts and then a little bit of a berm. So that's some of the stuff we're trying to fix, and this is what it looks like today to try to give it some frame of reference rather than just graphs this time. So hopefully that was help tie some of those things together. I'll go back and kind of talk about the drought a little bit and what we can expect. You already saw the drought monitor earlier today. We are in the extreme drought. We do expect that to persist through the early part of the summer. We will get a wet season. We don't know when it'll start, but it will take some time to recover the deficit. So hopefully we do get some rain and an average or so wet season to help bring up some of these water levels. Aside from the drought, as you look even further into the summer, we got our first early hurricane forecast, and this is from the Colorado State University. And there's some influencers that they believe could change or modify the hurricane season, one of them being the El Nino formation. Right now and that means this area in the Pacific is basically warmer than it would be historically. It oscillates between too warm and too cold, and that's just what it does. But when it's in a too warm state, which is the El Nino, it generally has a tendency to increase wind shear, which hopefully lessens the amount of hurricanes that form over the year. It doesn't change our preparedness. It doesn't change what we do, because one storm is all you need to make a difference. So we still stay prepared, but this just gives an idea of what could be coming. Hopefully there's less activity out there in the Atlantic this coming season. These numbers, 13 storms, 6 hurricanes is what's predicted today. That will change. They refine this as you move forward in time. And then with that El Nino that I just talked about, it also has an effect on our dry season. This is next dry season. So generally speaking, what happens is we get more rain in the dry season with an El Nino. So that basically the storm track is through the southern United States rather than the north, and we get above normal rain. The pictures on the left here, these are just looking backwards in time of December, January, February rainfall totals when we've had El Nino conditions. And the thing I want you to take away from this, rather than all the numbers, is just, we're at 180%, 200% of normal during those past years. So that's something we could expect to continue or expect to see again this coming dry season. Which is really why the Climate Prediction Center is showing above average rainfall predictions for this coming dry season, this fall. And I will close there. Happy to answer any questions about anything.
Okay, questions for Brad? Ms. McLeod?
Thank you, Brad. Brad, help me to understand this. When you were talking about GG5, so you say it's too low, the water keeps flowing, we need to redo these weirs to be able to monitor that better. Okay, so if we had a higher GG5 and but the water comes here, but it stops, then what happens? Does it go back out?
So instead of it leaking out all summer, when it stages up with the wet season, when the water table is high and the canal levels are full, we can then stop it and then let smaller bouts out so we can keep the water level in the canal where we want it to be, which could be 2-3 feet higher during the dry season. So it does stop the water, but we're able to fully control the canal and let out the amount of water that we need to, rather than it being artificially constrained by some dam inside the canal, basically.
So what's the harm of it leaking out?
It overdrain, so that's water, our water resource. When it's leaking out, it goes to tide. It flows out of the canal system and then eventually makes its way down to GG1 by Airport Road, and it goes into Naples Bay. So we want to keep that freshwater system full when we want to, when we need to.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay. Okay. And then one other question. We used to talk about Lake O a lot when there was a lot of rains. And now I see that the levels are under what, 12 feet? Is that how they measure it? I'm wondering, what's the condition of Lake O at this point?
I did not familiarize myself
Oh,
with Lake
okay.
Okeechobee
Yeah.
this morning, as it's not in the basin, but if
you're right.
I can follow back up with you if you are interested in that.
Okay, yeah, only because we used to talk about it a lot when there was so much rain and the concerns and the releases and how does it affect Southwest Florida?
And I can say Southwest Florida is not impacted by the Lake Okeechobee operations or anything like that. Remember, our system is completely hydraulically separated from it. So all the water, whatever's going on in Lake Okeechobee doesn't really affect us in the BCB area.
Yeah, okay, okay, so I was, when the green algae, thank you.
Blue-green algae.
Blue-green algae forms because of too much water, right? And then the releases, it doesn't affect, I guess, down here, Southwest Florida, but like Sanibel, because that has shown effects from the blue-green algae
I mean,
from the Caloosahatchee River.
I think what you're asking about is outside the basin. And I think that's what Brad is
Right.
kindly trying to mention, that
Thank you.
he's the water manager for the basin.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you have questions about that, we can find out. I don't have the answer standing here today, but
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Vice Chair Smith.
It's the media that was talking about it. It wasn't Brad, I think. That's
Okay.
because of the overflow and all the problems in Fort Myers with the river and stuff. It's filthy. But I think that's what I was wondering too, but we haven't heard much about it because they haven't had the release.
We've also had the C-43, the Caloosahatchee Reservoir, come online. And so that's another project that was completed up in the area that you're talking about.
Okay,
So that's probably helped with the
Thank
discharge
you.
and the.
Yeah.
So thank you for the analysis of the slow leak is what is in my head, the slow leak, and how it relates to the budget request, because now it makes a lot more sense and great questions by Michelle. Okay, now you've got me totally confused. Are we gonna have like more hurricanes or not? It's like, I mean, according to this, okay, using CSU.
According to that, they're predicting less
Less.
hurricanes than an average year. Not tremendously less, but less.
Brad says less.
No, Colorado State University.
I know.
says less.
And El Nino is, you were talking about it as it's going to impact us the next dry season.
Yes,
Okay, all right.
this coming December, January, February timeframe.
So drought continues, most likely, and probably a severe drought.
It,
Moderate.
but until the rainfall stops or starts in May, whether it starts May 20th or May 1st or June 3rd, it'll start in there somewhere, and that will start to bring us some relief. But until then, we expect, continued dry season conditions.
Love your job. But thank you very much for the great report as usual.
Yeah.
Now I'm clear. Thank
Any other board member questions? Brad, thank you for the excellent report. And when you put a picture, it's worth 1,000 words on these projects. And that was really helpful. And thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to the monthly financial report and the preliminary budget discussion with Candida Heater.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You had lunch too.
In my mind. Okay, so the monthly financial report that has been submitted is through the month of February. Staff is currently working on March. You should be getting March next month, beginning of next month. So thus far you have collected $20 million in new revenue. We budgeted 17, so we're $2.8 million ahead, but that is because of the $5.2 million that we received from Collier County. On the expenditure side, the expenditures, you have expended 7.5 million, and we have encumbered over 11 million. So that means you're about 50% or a little over 50% obligated. So we're doing well. To circle back around to the revenues, a few things I'd like to just quickly go over with you. The ad valorem taxes is showing that we're slightly behind, but Miss Smith has us keeping a trend. And just a little look ahead for you. The month of March, you'll still see that it's showing that we're a little behind, but then April, we are catching up. And that really has to do just with timing of staff receiving those payments, posting them, et cetera. So there's no indicators that we have any issues. So I just want to mention that. And then the intergovernmental. So intergovernmental there's a new revenue this year for the Basin, which is the Army Corps of Engineers revenue that offsets your expenses for Picayune Strand. So right now, you're showing a small amount of $156,000 of revenue from the Corps of Engineers. And you had budgeted or anticipated 1.4, I'll round up, 1.4 million. And a projected expenditure budget of 2.7 million. So that's 50% of the revenue is what we projected. The reason this is so low, 156, is because it's only through the first quarter. So October through December. So we do quarterly invoicing to the Corps of Engineers, your finance team, your grant team, actually out of the Finance and Accounting Bureau. Right now, staff is working on the January to March invoices, which they should submit by the end of this month. So the revenue is based on your expenditures. So just because we planned, $1.4 million doesn't mean that we may receive $1.4 million because we may not spend, Dan may not need the full 2.7 million based on pumping, et cetera, what his needs are. So I just wanted to explain that a little bit. And also the process is that when we put the packages together to send to the Corps of Engineers, they are then sent to the Dan and his team to review those packages for expenditures, to make sure that they sign off on those expenditures, which is a requirement for auditing as well as for the Corps for backup, that somebody signed off on those expenditures, that they're true, accurate expenditures for Picayune. So there is quite a lot of oversight, of the expenditures, et cetera. So when the revenue comes in, then the revenue gets posted to the Basin fund according to those expenditures from the field station. The other expenditures that was on Mr. Virgil's slide, which is about $5+ million. Those funds then go into the general fund. The general fund is what pays for those other expenses. And a few more items in addition to the monthly financial report. The financial audit. Each year by statute, we are required to be audited by an external auditor for the financials of the agency. We're nearing completion, so you will be receiving a copy of the district's audit, which does include the Big Cypress Basin's funds. And the state auditors just started their operational audit. That's every 3 years. So right now, they are auditing the district, and it's for the period of October of 2024 through March of 2026. And that's an operational audit versus a financial. Their main goal is to oversee and make sure that there's proper oversight, proper following of policies and procedures, etc. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Candy. Questions for Candy from the board? Is there any public comment?
We have no registered speakers here. I do have, oh, I'm sorry. Inadvertent hand went up. We have no registered speakers and no one on Zoom, ma'am.
Okay.
I do think I should tell you at this point, Mr. Hill was called away and had to leave the meeting on Zoom.
Okay, thank you for correcting the record. Appreciate it.
I'm
Right.
sorry to interrupt. I can't raise my hand easily, but I did have a question for Candida.
Okay, so you were testing Troy with that hand raise. Okay.
Sorry there, Troy.
Okay, go ahead. Michelle,
So
go
I
ahead.
guess I just want to understand, so what you're saying about the reimbursement from the Army Corps is that will occur after expenditures are made and then paperwork is filed. So that's why we're seeing that delay in financing. Is that true? Is that accurate?
That is accurate. Yes, ma'am.
And then are we covered if we exceed our budget? Like if we go above? I mean, you mentioned we might go below, but what happens if our budget is higher or our actuals are higher than budgeted?
So, yes, ma'am. So if that would occur, there would be one of two things that we would do. Number one, we would look at all the rest of the basin funds, for example, to see if there are any savings within, Rory's area or within the field stations area that are non-Picayune, and we could transfer those funds to cover the Picayune expenses, and then you would get that offsetting revenue. If
You're
not,
saying, wait,
then
then we would ultimately get it back from the Army Corps. You're saying
Yeah.
we would just fund it internally first.
yes, and you would get 50% back. Now, if for some reason everybody was chugging along and spending all their monies in their work plan that the board allocated, then we would turn to the general revenue fund to look to see if there was available general revenue fund to cover those needed expenses within Picayune. The general revenue fund can be spent anywhere across all 16 counties. So across all 16
I
counties
see.
versus anywhere.
Right.
So we would, have two options of funding potentially.
All right. Thank you very much. So the other question I have relates to the tax receipts that are behind. I'm
Yes,
just
ma'am.
trying to understand, has that been a pattern that we're starting to see collections lagging in terms of how the tax collector's office is functioning, or is that more an internal issue?
From what I'm looking at historically, many of the months of February, we have been slightly behind. So it could be that not as many homeowners are taking the 4% or 3%, advantage of taking the 4 or 3%.
Prepayment.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
But I will be honest, we have not called the county, to investigate because it's only about 1% behind, so it's not a large percent.
No,
And
I
just
know it's not a lot
Yeah.
at all, but it
Yeah,
just
yeah.
isn't, I don't know. I just was curious for a little more information, so I guess if it continued, it would be good to investigate a little
Yes,
more.
and we definitely would. It looks like, so according to this trend, if by the month of June, we are not, or actually May, we're not caught up, then we would make the phone calls. And we've had to do that in the past for some of the other counties where we've had to call and ask, if there was an issue. And a lot of times it was staffing, someone had left and they were transitioning, et cetera. So.
All righty. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other questions, Candy. Thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to our last general public comment portion. This is another chance for the public to comment on anything that was not covered in today's meeting. Do we have any?
I have no slips here in the room and I see no hands raised on Zoom at this time.
Okay, well, thank you, Troy. And that brings us to final board comments. So we'll go ahead and give the board members an opportunity to have one last chance. Ms. McLeod,
Nothing, thank you.
Vice Chair Smith?
I think Brad Cornell's conversation about turf is really good. I would love to have him come and talk to HOAs. And somehow, because it is a turf war in HOAs. There's a lot of, the owners want to go Florida friendly. And there's a contract with turf and it's a huge issue. So, I mean, I guess I would like to go down a rabbit hole and I'll talk to Lisa about it, I guess, later. But he brings up a great point and it's an issue, like within HOAs for sure.
And there's also with the stormwater retention ponds and HOAs, in the littoral plantings as well, where they mow down to the water's edge, right? And
Yeah.
that whole thing. So that's,
There's a differentiation between property rights, like I would go Florida friendly, 100%. My HOA says, no, you can't.
yeah.
So I was like, so it's like there's an issue. That's the
Yeah,
biggest issue.
there's, great, great.
Mhm.
Oh,
That's,
it's super fun.
and
Thank
Brad
you.
and I had a interesting conversation about that at Gopher Tortoise and Owl Buddy Day. He was bringing up Florida friendly and how we could move that conversation forward. So that's great that you're interested in working with them. Mr. Romano,
Nothing for me.
Ms. Lenhart?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Okay. I have just a couple of things. Today at our board meeting, we had an incredible budget laid down by the professional team from the district. And I want to thank each and every one of you for pulling that all together because talk about a comprehensive picture of our finances and what we look at our way ahead in our spending. It was excellent today. So I want to thank you for all of that. And as we know, and we've come to appreciate as a board, managing projects aren't easy. It isn't easy. And to manage some of these projects and to get them ahead of schedule, I mean, that's another incredible accomplishment. And it wouldn't be possible without the professional team that we have at the district and supporting the Basin, and Lisa, your leadership and your whole Basin team here as well. So much appreciated, and it doesn't go unnoticed. Also, as far as our meeting support today, I want to thank Troy. You've been outstanding in your support for the board, and Celia. You've gotten your feet wet and you've just done an incredible job in support. And I'm sure all of the board is really recognized your contribution and appreciates all that you bring to this board and to the Basin in your day-to-day work. So thank you so much. And our next Basin board meeting is going to be July 7th, Tuesday, July 7th. And with that, we're adjourned.